I'm going live here on everybody's 7:01, so not so bad. We're live. Hello, Angela. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yo, hey, Angela. How you doing?
That's funny. Hey, yo, Angela.
Hey, Angela. How you doing over there? You doing all right?
Was that Rocky?
It's good to see you. You know, you look good over there. You know what I mean? You look good. You look.
Hey, yo, Angela.
Yo, Angela. You look really good over there. You know what I mean? I don't know who that is.
Didn't in the Rocky movies, wasn't his love interest named Angela?
No, Adrian.
Adrian. Of course. Well, no, he shouts Adrian. Okay.
Yeah, he shouts Adrian.
Okay, then I'm confusing this. This is a...
It's Adrian. I can assure you it's Adrian.
I know that the Rocky movie is Adrian.
Okay.
Adrian, but I'm saying that Ayo Angela is something I heard.
Ayo Angela.
And I think it was like Scott Baio, maybe?
Scott
Did he do
Baio
it?
here with a different kind of accent than he's usually having.
Okay. Let me see.
Delicate has arrived. Hi, Delicate. It's so nice to see you. You know, it's true that I've gotten to the point where I actually expect you to show up. And I know that that's wrong of me. So I'm always relieved because, you know, I know Erica's here. I know that. Hi, Erica. Good to see you. I know that, you know, one day you're not going to show up. And I have to come to terms with it.
Why?
Because she's going to be busy one day and she's like, or, you know, something will happen and she'll be like, not there. And I'll be like, Delicate didn't show up. Or she'll just get sick of us. She'll be like, man, you know what? He stutters too many times. I know this now because I'm editing. I stutter a lot. I have to cut out a lot of stuttering, a lot of it. You know, because I'm a writer and I'm formulating all the exact words that I want to, you know, let out. Tony Danza. Oh, that could be it. It's a little.
Who's the boss?
Who's the boss? Scott Bloom was on Who's the Boss. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
I knew I heard it from somewhere.
He was on Who's the Fucking Boss. Probably after Enough is Not Enough of the Stuff. Enough is never enough of the stuff. Oh my goodness. Hello everyone. Erica and Erica and Delicate are here. I think that's all we have so far, yeah. And TikTok is empty. Oh, I'm sorry for making noise. I know that you guys just heard that and I apologize. At least I'm not wrestling the mic today.
That was really entertaining, though. I'm sorry that you felt so bad about it. It was pretty comedic. You could have played it up.
I didn't even get my I had a shirt picked out for today that I just did not get on. This is like just my day, like my day shirt. Not my live shirt.
Not your performance shirt.
Not my live shirt. It's not a performance. I don't perform. I'm not a performer. I'm a speaker. I'm a talker. I talk. I speak to people on TikTok and on YouTube and to you. Love of my life. Woman of my dreams. Person of my persons. Oh, you know what? I just realized that I've got my TikTok stand on my mouse pad. So now they're getting the jiggly wigglies over there. Sorry, guys.
Would you get it together, Dale?
It is a little difficult these days to get it together. And I do apologize.
All right. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit distracted by these client relations.
Angela's doing client relations currently while we're on live.
Trying to do client relations.
I am thoroughly enjoying the Baldoni fallout. The Baldoni fallout is really, I knew it was going to come. I didn't realize it was going to come this soon. I thought there would be a trial. You know what I mean? And there's still going to be a trial. Like, it is only going to get worse for Team Baldoni. Team Baldoni's situation has not improved and will not be improving soon. And it's so funny because the guy that you refer to as the evil Dave Navarro, what do you call him?
Oh, Sassy Dave Navarro.
Sassy Dave Navarro.
Zach Peter
on TikTok.
Yeah, I mean he has a bunch of he's on a bunch of platforms.
Well, I covered him on TikTok once because he just showed up in my feed and I was like, oh, who's this guy? And
he's actually the one who introduced us to the whole scenario.
Yeah.
Because I came across a video where he was talking about how scandalous it was that Blake Lively took over wardrobe.
Right.
And it was his commentary that I brought to you, and I was like, Dale, you're a filmmaker. Is this really as bullshit as it sounds to me? And you're like, absolutely.
Danielle is here. Hi, Danielle. So good to
That's
see
what
you.
started it all.
Yeah, exactly. So that guy.
Credit to Zach Peter for introducing us to this total disaster.
So Zach Peter, he's like he's all like, oh, he's calling out Blake bots, which is really hilarious because
That's projection for sure.
although I kind of laid off getting involved in the Baldoni because there were so many bots, but it wasn't Blake bots. Like I stopped posting because it was just bots, and they were really they were bad. They were just bad for my.
No, there was a video creator on TikTok who actually identified two different people with two different usernames saying the exact same thing.
I saw it on my own channel.
Yeah.
On my own channel, I saw it multiple times.
She screenshotted them and showed everybody, and she was like, "How's this not bots? This isn't normal." If you had two accounts that you were like genuinely running, you wouldn't be saying the same thing. Not exactly verbatim, like same characters.
I saw it multiple times on my TikTok channel. Multiple times.
Yeah. Me too.
And so, and it kind of spooked me to the point where I was like, I'm not going to be a part of this. And I just stopped posting about it. But it's just so funny because he's now projecting that onto Blake Lively, because at no point did I see any kind of like that kind of sketchy kind of posting when it came to Blake Lively at all. Like nothing.
I haven't either. I've actually been kind of amazed that she hasn't implemented that at all. Because that's something that a person's publicist is able to use. The reason why Justin Baldoni's in trouble for it is because he used publicity and bots and whatever, like all of these different tools to attack somebody else. And that's what publicists aren't supposed to do. But if her publicist did something similar where they're simply defending their own client, that's totally within the legal abilities of them.
I guess.
Sorry, I said that really badly.
Yeah.
You're gonna cut that out.
You want to be? You can't edit the show while we're talking. You gotta stop editing.
I'm gonna.
It's very distracting when I'm actually editing. Just so you know, there's no editing while we're talking. Guilty Angel's here. Hello,
Hi.
Guilty Angel. Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for coming.
Princess Baldoni takes another L. Says Guilty Angel.
Princess Baldoni takes another L is very funny.
Oh, I found a quote. Since we're talking about this now, I thought you guys would find this delightful. This applies to so many people, but first person I thought of when I heard this quote from Carl Jung was Justin Baldoni, because he's definitely the creator of his own misfortune.
Yeah.
But also, I find it really weird that people like Andy Signor keep like poking the tiger of their own like past
Salacious past.
Well, like he has a bad reputation. He was even accused of assault. I didn't know that until
SA,
this
yeah. He was accused of the heavy stuff.
Yeah, so I just think it's really weird that he's decided to align with this, with taking down Me Too accusers instead of just completely disappearing off the topic and covering other entertainment stuff exclusively. Like, if that sort of thing had happened to me, first of all, you'd never hear from me again. I would disappear. I'd go do something else with my life. But the fact that he's leaning so far into the exact same thing he was accused of means that he's going to get constantly reaccused, brought up again and again, because he's asking for it. Anyway, so this is the quote by Carl Jung, because he knows everything about everybody, and it's just he always hits it every time. Carl Jung said, "It is often tragic to see how blatantly a man bungles his own life and the lives of others, yet remains totally incapable of seeing how much the whole tragedy originates in himself, and how he continually feeds it and keeps it going. Not consciously, of course, for consciously he is engaged in bewailing and cursing a faithless world that recedes further and further into the distance. Rather, it's an unconscious factor which spins the illusions that veil his world. And what is being spun is a cocoon, which in the end will completely envelop him."
Yeah, that's Baldoni's. That's like a Baldoni burger right there. That's like a Baldoni burger with all the fixins.
I know. It's just like it's such a predictable behavior from dudes that Carl Jung literally wrote it as like a psychotherapist was like, yeah, this is a problem some people encounter. And it's lame.
Yeah, well, it's something that I had been calling on Baldoni from, I've been talking about from the beginning. He had been bestowed the greatest of gifts, the greatest of opportunities. He had everything lined up and just perfect. I mean, I've never seen it like I've seen a few people just spring into action. I remember this guy, Eric Michael Cole, he showed up in Hollywood. I spotted him in the bar. I was like, man, who's that beautiful dude? And he was just like, he just showed up out of nowhere. And the very next week, and I'm not even exaggerating, he was working with Ridley Scott. He was just one of these guys who just like everything went well. It didn't stay that way for him, unfortunately. He ended up like, I think he's a carpenter now. But for whatever reason, he just showed up and things just like went great. He didn't, experience any kind of downfall because of his own doing. He just didn't like continue as an actor for whatever reason. Baldoni, he had what Eric Michael Cole had on steroids, man. Like to have, not just, like you were saying earlier today, I think he comes off this series. His series is canceled. Most people, they have this like hiatus in between jobs where they're trying to figure out who they are again, whether it's like getting another TV show, whether or not they're breaking into features or whatever it might be. This guy, he jumps right into directing and acting in his own work and producing massive successes right out of the gate, and not really because he's some great producer or filmmaker. It really is lightning in a bottle, this guy, over and over again.
Working with Sony was such a huge test for him, and if he had succeeded, it would have catapulted him, and he would have had like a very comfortable seat, like making it like in whatever niche he wanted to continue to direct. Like, that's such a huge studio, and if you can work at their level, then you get to continue working at their level as long as everything goes well, right?
Yeah.
He was represented by WME. There's no reason why he shouldn't have been able to keep going up and up and up.
No, the guy was about to have a nearly $500 million box office success that he produced, that he directed, and that he starred in. I mean, he was about to go to an entirely different level with a $500 million win on a non-Marvel movie. That makes him an entirely different commodity, a very rare commodity, frankly. So the idea that he exists, that's like Pedro Pascal like territory, where Pedro was only now getting into Marvel. Do you know what I mean? But he was like this. He's like one of those few guys that were huge before he got into the Marvel universe. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm just bringing that up as an example because, Justin Baldoni was about to be catapulted into this upper echelon of star power, and all without the the use of all the tropes that are now plaguing Hollywood.
And I think
another big gift.
I just feel sad for the people who believe his side of the story, because they really do believe, much like in your true story, right?
Yes.
That he had all this success and it was taken from him,
right, by
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
But that story wasn't supported by any evidence, and that's why it was dismissed. And so I just hope that these people wake up to the fact that the side of the story that he told was literally baseless, so much so that the judge was like, I don't even want to see this again. It's foundationally flawed. Like, there's nothing that you could bring me to amend in an amendment that would make this make any more sense in a court.
Yeah.
And so what remains is her side of the story, which is that he completely went off the fucking rails as soon as anything became uncomfortable, and he decided to attack his star. And then Sony had to step in and start navigating the communications between the two because they were at odds. And after something like that happens, he's never going to work with a studio again. What do you mean that you had Sony paying for a major movie star in your film, right? And paying for your distribution and, partially paying for every other part of the production, and that you bit the hand that feeds you by attacking the star that they helped attach? Who's ever going to work with somebody like that again? And so the only side of the story that remains is hers, because his side wasn't credible enough to even prove in court.
What I think you're hitting on is that he, at the point in time when he got Crisis PR involved in his problem, I think it was then that he realized how badly and how far he had gone in fucking up this whole thing with Sony. Because if Sony was suddenly a place where he lost all credibility as a filmmaker, and where Wayfarer itself as a producing entity was just on the no list suddenly.
Yeah, Jamie Heath did his part too. He was really pissing off the executives.
Then that's gonna spread throughout Hollywood, or at least there might be a fear that it does, especially with a guy like Baldoni, who through his own memoir and his own interviews said over and over again that he feels like he's constantly under attack, or that he's always been having to wear a suit of armor So this idea that he is
He's got like a complex or something.
that there's some kind of,
the poor guy. What the fuck?
karma coming after him or something. So it's an incredible mess that he created. And I'll tell you though, the studio was just waiting for him to do right by it. If you recall, the way this correspondently went was that Blake Lively went to the studio after not getting really what she wanted, and the studio deferred back to Wayfair, trying to get Wayfair to do the right thing. And part of what was important there in terms of for Wayfair and their future was that is the moment when they needed to remedy the situation. And if they were able to remedy the situation, not only to the satisfaction of the studio, but to the satisfaction of the people involved, they're on Sony's good list immediately, because Sony is a giant, huge corporation that deals with SH probably on a weekly basis in terms of the size of the company and all the different countries that they exist in.
That's true. With these like giant corporations, they're like, if you can make it go away, then then you win their hearts.
I say it's better than that. I say it's better than that. I say it's more than just can you make it go away. It's can you make it right? Can you correct the problem?
Yeah, without them having to deal with any of it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's management. That's the kind of thing. It's like where they can feel reliably that, hey, you're the kind of company I can count on, because even if shit goes bad, you're the kind of people who can pick it up and get it sorted and make sure that not only is the property protected, but so is the integrity of the organization.
I was just thinking about making it go away, because that's often there's like a really horrible situation, like a trend. I'm not speaking very well today.
Come on, Angela. Restart the mower.
The reason why I thought that it would be that they would like whoever makes it go away is because that's how a lot of really big organizations like universities. I was thinking about how universities often deal with sexual assault and sexual harassment by siding with whoever can make it go away faster.
Yeah.
They don't care where the justice is. They just want it to not be a problem so that they don't have a publicity issue and they don't have to deal with it, and everybody can go on and pretend like nothing bad is happening.
I wouldn't say that's the case here. The case here, I think, is that a movie studio wants it solved. They want it corrected.
Because it's business. That's right. Because they're trying to sell a property and they don't want any problems.
Because they know that this can happen.
Right.
Because they know that this can happen.
Right.
They know.
He should have known that this could happen. What is his problem not knowing that this could happen?
Stars are dynamite. They're dynamite. Yeah. You light the wick of a star, it will explode. The world will know. Stars are dynamite. And the studio knows that. And then you could, which begs the question, why didn't the studio then get more involved, knowing that this could spiral out of control? And part of the reason is because they're not their production company. So there's also certain liability issues that you have to, sort of toe and watch and make sure that. And when we saw how important, the legal clarification of everything was to Sony, just when we learned, when they learned that Ryan Reynolds, or that Blake Lively claimed on that red carpet event that Ryan Reynolds had written that rooftop scene. And as soon as that happened, Sony wrote a letter immediately and saying we need to clear this up immediately, because that's a potential liability. So they don't fuck around in that situation. They just don't fuck around in that situation when they're involved in the property, at that level. So anyway, it's the biggest fumble I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen anything so.
It is like a catastrophic fumble.
I can't believe it. They had everything. They were on the 1 yard line about to win the Super Bowl, and they fumbled the ball and turned it over. And not only did they turn it over, but they basically got out of the guy who picked it up's hands, and they just ran it all the way to the other side of the field and won the fucking game.
Yeah, like Carl Jung wrote about the own goal, right? It is often tragic to see how blatantly a man bungles his own life and the lives of others, yet remains totally incapable of seeing how much the whole tragedy originates in himself.
Well, what's interesting about all the fallout that's happening, the fallout with Signor and the Sassy Dave Navarro, is that, the fallout these guys are having, I'll tell you, and, I don't know what Miss Flock is saying, because I really don't give a shit about Miss Flock.
That's not her name.
Flaw. See, that's how much I don't give a shit about her. Her name is meaningless to me. But I just wonder.
Why are you spiteful?
But why? Because I don't. Why? Because they are. Because they're the exact thing that is my problem in my life. They are my problem.
No, I know, but they're so transparent about it. I actually don't see them as too much of threats because it's like it's so easy to clock these people for being, chasing the money of it.
Yes.
Like, you see how many videos she puts out on this one topic? Like, girl, there's not that much to say. Like, it's just wild.
No, they're feeding off of it.
Yeah.
But they're feeding, I believe, and this is part of what we're talking about today in general, is that I believe that they're paid shills. I believe that they're shilling for these. I think Blake Lively knows that, and I think that's why she subpoenaed the attorneys. I think that they were trying to, and this is going to be so interesting to see how this plays out for Blake Lively, because I think that they were trying to hide under the guise of their attorney privilege or their litigation privilege.
Yeah.
And allowing Friedman to go out and be this PR front and be this mediator between these influencers and the facts.
So I brought you what Andy Signor has said in defense of his. Okay, so I don't care. I don't know if any. God.
Let me just set something up.
Okay.
Andy Signor has never said anything objective about Blake Lively at all on his channel, to my knowledge. He has never once spoken with any objectivity, perhaps with the single exception of when this story first broke. And when the story first broke, curiously, I watched him read the I guess it was the civil rights complaint. He read that first. And when he read that, of course, in it had all of the texts from, Abel and Nathan and this really extremely damning evidence.
Yeah.
And when he read it, he was like, wow, I got to say, guys, like, I know you guys are anti-Blake Lively, or there's a lot of anti-Blake Lively sentiment out there, but I don't know, guys, this doesn't look good for this guy, Justin Baldoni. These are the things that he was saying. It was like overnight, Angela.
Yeah, so what changed him?
Money changed him. The phone call. Remember this. The very same publicist, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, I believe that the very same publicist that worked for Johnny Depp during, or even perhaps thereafter, but certainly during the Amber Heard trial, was Justin Baldoni's publicist. Same publicist. Or either that or the same publicist for Friedman and his firm. Either or. Or maybe both.
Yeah, I think Melissa Nathan worked for Johnny Depp.
Yeah, exactly. So now you have...
I think that's why she's the go-to person, because she's really good at attacking
Andy Signor was
accusers.
in with the publicist of Johnny Depp, and I know that.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that because they set up a meeting with Andy and Johnny Depp when Andy was out touring and watching the vampires, because Johnny, he loves him some Johnny Depp.
Well, so Blake Lively has been we can tell from court filings, because her lawyers are professional and they're not talking to the media.
Dr. Susan's here, by the way. Hello, Dr. Susan. Who else have we missed here? Tanner's here. What's up, Tanner? Good to see you. I don't know who's here on TikTok. I'll be watching for your names. Whoever is here on TikTok. I think Dr. Susan's pulling double time here on TikTok too. Go ahead. Sorry, Angela. Just wanted to acknowledge that we got some peeps here hanging out with us. Go ahead.
What was I saying?
You'll have to ask Guilty Angel. I don't know.
Blake Lively had said in court filings, right? Like her lawyers.
Yeah.
And we know this because they're putting it in court filings, not because they talk to the media, because they're professionals and they actually are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But,
yeah, right.
But they've been talking about how through discovery they're also interested in who has access to these files and these email logins and whatever that they call dead drops, which is like a way to seed information and not be traced.
So like an example of that is an email address, and you have a drafted folder, and then you give somebody else the login, and they go in and they log in and they read that, whatever that correspondence would have been, but it goes unsent. There's no there's no track, there's no nothing.
Yeah.
So it's not subpoenaed, it's not a part of discovery, it doesn't make it into evidence.
It's clever.
It's really super clever.
And so Blake Lively's folks think that this is how this information has been disseminated, and that's why they call it untraceable in all of their messages with each other. That's why they're promoting it to Justin Baldoni as untraceable. Like, hire us, our shit is untraceable.
And so where you're going with this is that Andy Signor shows his desktop, and when Andy Signor was reading his so-called exclusive statement from Brian Friedman, which he got multiple hours in advance of any other so-called media outlet, that he was reading from a Google Docs, and a Google Docs would not be considered. And now if he's logging in and that's not a shared document, and he's logging in, and there's no transaction between them, then that would be an example, another example of that. What's it called?
Dead drops.
Dead drops.
Yeah, people were quick to notice. Like they're like, that doesn't look like a press release, right? There's no contact, there's no time, there's no nothing that they usually have on a press release that Brian Friedman's office would know how to put out.
If that's the case, then Andy Signor might be finding himself on the other side of a subpoena.
I know. So he is. I brought this for you because he's defending himself online after being accused of this.
He has to defend himself a lot, doesn't he?
I know.
Like, I literally only have ever had to say that I didn't turn a short into a feature.
Well, this is the thing. He's like hoisted by his own petard with this, you know? He's like, he's decided to set a bomb and then it explodes right on him. Like this is all his own doing. Anyway, he goes, "You aren't very bright, are you?" He's responding to somebody on Twitter. "How do you think people got that Brian Friedman statement?" Or TMZ. Spoiler alert. He's so sassy. "Because we all asked for one. Because guess what? We are all press. Others may have been slower to post, I assume, since we are facing World War III yesterday." He said...
This is Andy?
Yes.
Well, why do you call it an exclusive then? So he's lying. He's lying to somebody then. If it's not an exclusive, he just said it's not an exclusive. Is that correct?
He said it's not an exclusive.
But he advertised it as an exclusive. Did he not?
He's explaining. He said, "Guess what? I reached out to both Justin's camp and Blake's camp for statements. Why? Because I'm press. It's my job. The fact that Blake supporters are trying to twist me getting official statements for reporting is shady. Only proves how desperate they are."
No one is more desperate in this situation than him and the rest of the team Baldoni Shills. No one is more desperate because, and by the way, what's interesting about that stupid statement is that he's the one that should be fucking embarrassed. And every one of them who've been sitting there and bashing this woman into the ground. And the reason I'm getting upset is because they have played not only unfairly, but they have played like Mean Girls. They have played with venom. And vitriol.
I know. There's a really...
They disgust me. Like, literally, they disgust me. They get on their... They put their... They tried to destroy this woman's life. They tried to destroy her reputation, and they basically succeeded. And they had no fucking reason to do it. And you know what Andy Signor has to do with fucking Blake Lively? Nothing. So what is his hatred of this woman? Where does it come from? Because to me, it looks more like misogyny or something bought. Because why do you put hatred on a woman when you don't have any fucking evidence? And now that all the evidence proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that they have been doing nothing but doing a big giant PR stunt to ruin this woman's career and to ruin this person's life, and they respond with fucking how desperate we are.
Yeah, well...
Honestly, bro, you need to get a fucking life, bro. Seriously, I'm really upset. It's just like such an insult because they're sitting there fucking playing games with people's minds. They're lying to people and gaslighting people every fucking day. And then now they're going to call us so-called Blake Lively supporters desperate. I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure it's Blake Lively who's fucking sweeping right now in this litigation. Like literally embarrassing every fucking one of you. And I love it.
Okay, so let me say that Sarah Siegel on TikTok made a really good... She just like, she's such a great communicator. But she made the point, she's like, okay, well, you call yourself press, but everything you say is so one-sided. Like, if you were press, you'd be sharing, you know, I don't know, maybe like all sides of the story. Like, if you were press, you'd be reporting on it, you know, less...
I mean, we know that's not true anyway with fucking MSNBC and Fox and everybody else who's just a bunch of bullshit anyway. So we know that's not the case, but...
But he literally only follows one side. And so I don't... Yeah. It's weird that he's calling himself press. Like, dude, you're a fucking YouTuber. Like, I'm not... Okay, so
he's a fucking YouTuber.
So I'm the press?
Nah, he gets a fucking million followers. Honestly, he's an oaf. If you want to know the truth about my opinion of the guy, he's a bit of an oaf. He doesn't really do anything. He has no actual contribution whatsoever. Like part of, you know, I interviewed with him. I liked him. I did. I thought, like, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Actually, I'll say that. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. The truth is that I had tension with him. Something he even acknowledged in our first interview. Because there was something about him, I was like, because he kept pushing their story onto my story, right? Like I was there doing an interview and he kept like pushing what he had been fed through the internet rather than what was going on. And I was trying to like get him straight on that before continuing in
Yeah, you're like, you can believe me. I was there. Like, I'm telling you what happened.
You don't have to fucking believe the internet anymore, buddy. I'm sitting here having a fucking interview at your request. Yeah. Like, he got me so frustrated in that situation.
Weird. It's like, what is this cognitive dissonance when you're sitting across from the person who literally like created the story you're trying to tell? Like, it's so crazy. But this is the thing, is he's just shooting himself in the foot, and this is just like his entire trajectory of his career ever since before he got accused, the things that he did to earn himself accusations, and then everything that he's doing since is just like such an own goal constantly. And here it is again, because Betty Scott on Twitter pointed out, she's like, this just proves Friedman colluded with creators who are anti-Lively, and that will play well in court.
That's right. But I want to know why Andy Signor is anti-Lively. That I really want to know. Like, he'll never fucking be able to explain it. But why? Why?
Well, he certainly can't explain now because he's probably susceptible to liability now. I don't know. I don't know.
No, he's not. He's not going to be susceptible to liability in terms of. Andy Signor is not going to get sued in this situation. The most that'll happen to Andy Signor is that he'll get dragged into this as a witness, or in revealing that Friedman is in fact this shill who has violated all ethics known to any fucking bar association in any state.
That he would be dragged in as a witness.
So he'll get dragged in as a witness in the same way that Leonardo DiCaprio had to go and sit for a grand jury because of the Malaysian fund that he used to, pay himself and adorn his walls and fucking
but
art.
Chill out, because I want to ask you questions.
I
know. I want to ask you questions without so much heat. Okay, so check this out. So how is Andy Signor not going to be liable for defamation? He has to understand that what he's saying is false, right? In order to have it be a defamatory statement?
Well, yes. I mean, it's really hard to prove against. It's really hard to get defamatory statements proven against public figures. So he's basically in the clear. He can say anything he wants about her, and nothing will happen to him. He doesn't have to worry about liability. He's not going to be a party to any lawsuit beyond being a witness. And this I feel pretty strong about, because First Amendment really is clear about this. It's very clear also about people in the public eye, because it's basically a privilege they forego is their privacy as a public figure, and so you can literally lie about them, and it's really hard to prove any kind of damages unless and there have been many stars who've tried to do it, Johnny Depp in England, and you know what I mean, and it's always gone bad for them, so most always at least. So he's fucking Andy Signor. I'm telling you, bro. And now that he says that, like when he says that, because I told this story, I texted him because as soon as I saw he was going on the wrong end of this, because it was so clear as the day is fucking blue, as the sky's blue, I wrote him right away. I was like, don't get on the wrong side of this, Andy.
Well, the reason why I thought that was a useful thing for you to do, and I'm surprised that he didn't take your offer to help him with this, is because you were approaching him just being like, listen, maybe you have to be a filmmaker to understand how bullshit these claims are.
Exactly.
But as a filmmaker, I can tell you that these claims are bullshit, and here I want to explain why. And he was like, nope, not interested.
No, he didn't even do that. He fucking yelled at me. He just basically yelled at me in text, And we never spoke since after that. After he yelled at me in this like unhinged way, in my opinion.
Stressed out. And
then I just fucking dumped him. I went right over to his fucking channel and I unfollowed him and I just dumped him. I was like, dude, you're a wrap. Because this guy's got SAA accusations against him, right? He took the Johnny Depp side in the Amber Heard situation, which I thought he was doing because the evidence looked so profoundly in Johnny Depp's favor with regards to his claims against her, right? So I thought he was on the right side of the story in that regards, regardless of what you think about Johnny Depp. You know what I mean? Obviously, Johnny Depp did some douchey things there. We know that. Johnny Depp knows that.
Yeah, it's that perfect victim thing again.
Yeah, exactly. There's no perfect victim.
He's not a perfect victim.
He's not a perfect victim, but victim he was. So Andy Signor was like tracking on like everything was cool. He approached me saying, "Hey man, I've been wrongfully accused of SA," And I'm like, okay, like maybe that's true. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to give him a benefit of a doubt because he is so vehemently sure of it. He laid out his whole case for me before I did my first interview with him hugging the cactus, because I asked him about it. I was like, what is all this about? And he told me the whole thing. He showed me like texts and all this other stuff to clear his name.
If he's so forthright about it, then maybe he was really caught off guard. Maybe he thought that he was just having like a little workplace romance, which, everybody's entitled to do if it's, whatever, like... People cheat all the time, and it doesn't have to be this like big, destructive scandal. Like people are adults, but he was accused of actually, of like unwanted, passes or whatever.
Yeah, he got
I
himself.
don't even know what to call it because it was like he sent like really lewd videos and stuff. I'm just like, man, if that wasn't somebody that like you knew was asking for that, you're a fucking pig.
So I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I did the interview with him. I thought everything was cool. Then I asked him to interview me for the book. He did. I mean, he honestly, like, he treated that whole opportunity like shit. I gave him a great opportunity. I was sure of it. And it's true because actually it was before Lively and Baldoni broke. And so Diddy had broken. And my video my interview that was on his channel, we were at like 400,000 or 500,000 views. And his Diddy stuff was struggling to get to 200,000. And my interview was already at 400,000. I gave him gold and he completely treated it like shit. It was really annoying. I was really offended, but on the other hand, he did me this big favor and I did end up selling some books. So there was, I felt indebted to him more or less. Went on a show another time just to help out his membership side of his business. And I did this whole, sort of whatever fun half a day with his members, and they questions and answers, and we had a good time, some laughs, so on and so forth. So I felt like I was in, sort of good shape with the guy. I thought he was like a decent fella, had some success. I wasn't following him avidly as he went along after my interview with him. So when he blew up, I was like interested in him, like what he had accomplished. And then of course I sent him this Blake Lively stuff, trying to help him out because it was so clear to me that he was about to jump off into the wrong waters. I was like, bro, there's not much piranhas in there. You're going to get it. And he came back at me with just absolute trash.
I wonder if it was a mistake that he showed the whole screen with the docs, like untitled draft of the
guy's so messy, bro.
Friedman's
he's the most messy
statement.
guy. He's just like a messy dude, I'm
Like
I'm messy and he's
exposed
like
something there.
Yeah, no, he did. He did. I mean, it could have been a shared doc, so it might not be that this idea, and in which case, then that would be considered a transaction. That was I don't know if shared docs are something that lawyers are asking about in their discovery requests. I would imagine so. My case was before all this tech was around, so but I would imagine that lawyers are now asking for shared documents. But it seems like now they're going to be asking about whether or not people have ever logged into. I wonder how they'd be able to track whether or not somebody is logged into somebody else's email account. It would be an IP address.
Well, I don't know, but
guess.
I remember that that headline that Blake Lively brought in somebody who used to work for the CIA. I mean, obviously, it could have been like some admin, some like somebody who just like worked in the CIA offices, not like a, boots on the ground agent or whatever.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what they brought somebody like that on with, is to help with the data collection and intelligence and forensic, data testing or whatever they do.
Forensic data testing.
I don't know what it's called.
No, there's yeah, I guess it would, you get a hold of like something like Google or whatever, and then you would check and see where the IPs were that were coming onto this particular address, and then if you can, you'd be able to track those IPs down to a potential user, or at least regional, where they might be.
Yeah, I know these like federal agents have all kinds of tricks that we don't even know about how to track people. So maybe they can, is what I'm saying. Maybe they can determine who logs in where. I don't know.
I'm just like I'm appalled that I think I'm offended that I might have gotten myself into a situation where I'm like I was actually sleeping with the enemy. You know what I mean? Like and it turns out like, so Andy then sent me over to being Scientology, or growing up Scientology. Nice guy there, a guy named Aaron.
You've told this whole story before.
And then
I don't know.
and then from there I went to but it was all this like it just got progressively more right.
Yeah.
More weird.
Uh-huh.
Less hospitable, like,
This is why they call it like the alt-right pipeline, right? Like you just like, you get in with somebody who's like interesting and, interested in the same things as you. And then they're like, oh, if I may just recommend one of my friends, and they just get like progressively more, fascistic.
I think that's a part of, like the whole left wing problem with this whole like getting people to be on their side on the internet, is that like the left leaves me alone. They don't bother me. They don't ask me for nothing. They're not interested in my story. They kind of just ignore me. Like when I say that, I'm talking about like podcasters who are like liberal or whatever. They just leave me alone. They're not really interested in hearing from me at all.
Well, the reason...
right, let me finish. The right is all over it.
Yeah.
And they got me all the way up to Candace Owen, where they were asking me to get on Candace Owens.
Yeah.
And I obviously the New York Post and so on and so forth. And I think what happens is, and where I'm going with this, Angela, is that people they need exposure. I need exposure to move my book. I'm not going to sell out and go on a place like Candace Owens. And if I'd have known that Andy Signor or Growing Out Scientology or Matt Cox, if I knew they were far right, I would have stayed the fuck away from it, because I don't want to expose myself to any of that whatsoever. But I need publicity. And so it makes me think that there's certainly at least a possibility that a lot of the people who just want to get the publicity that can't get anything on the left or in the center are ending up going to these sort of far rights, where these people like to tear the headlines apart and create all this havoc and horror online, which, so it just makes me think that there's like a lot of people who just cross over because it's like, well, the devil poured me a cup of tea, bro. I needed, and I was thirsty.
I always thought it was really simple to see why, because there's only one side that's really very actively engaged in culture war shit, right? Like, there's only one side that's like trying to demonize Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
So like if your like antagonists in your story are tied to Hollywood, regardless of whether you are also tied to Hollywood, they're going to pick up on that because they want to put out culture war nonsense.
Yeah.
Constantly.
They do.
Culture war content. And like that's why Baldoni has been forgiven by all these people for all of his like pro-feminism content, because he's very clearly on the culture war side on their culture war side of anti-Hollywood. Like, he's telling a story about how he got destroyed by big movie stars. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, well, we're pretty sure that big movie stars destroy all kinds of things, so let's tell your story, regardless of whether he is completely misaligned on a bunch of their more fundamental beliefs on that side.
They don't care because they want to fry a guy. Like for example,
they want to fry Hollywood. They're trying to be divisive about
some of Hollywood, right? They're going to embrace what works for them, and then they're going to, but which is a very small minority of what Hollywood is.
No, I know. And what I'm saying is, like, to the left, the Hollywood, all that Hollywood stands for is that's where, like, the arts meets industry, and where you can make big money doing artistic stuff, and hopefully you don't get squashed by studios. Like, that's all I ever hear from the left, and that's not provocative. That's not going to make anybody angry. So they don't exploit those stories, but your story can get exploited by these people who are trying to make everybody angry against Hollywood.
Well, and this is where they go. And they just say, the whole point is that they're helping. Think of the devil, with a big wide smile, helping the person who has a good heart but is in a bad way with the good guys. For whatever reason, they're ignoring him, or, they've treated him badly, or he's been shunned in some way. But he's got a good heart and he's a good guy. And then all of a sudden the devil shows up, with a big wide grin and, magic. And, that magic is, hey, you know what? You need to sell books, Dale. And I can get you on Candace Owens. What do you say? You'll be exposed to millions of people. Let's do it. And to me, when the moment happened, to me, it felt like that moment where you're like, you signed the deal with the devil. I don't believe in the devil, but I believe in it in a sort of more of a proverbial sense, in that, like, you're making you're compromising your own soul, that whole like sellout thing. And I believe that there's a certain extent of sellout that truly scars your soul, that marks your soul. And I was not going to do that. And I would never conscientiously get myself into a situation where I was promoting myself or anything that I do in an atmosphere that was toxic, that was misogynistic, that was racist, right? Or that was even deeply political, for that matter.
It is always weird when you see people like go and become like right-wing entertainers just to keep their careers alive. Like, it just means that they're surrounded by the worst people for the rest of their careers. Like, we see a lot of comedians that, like, in their, they were big in the 90s or something, and now they're like doing like right-wing, like opening for right-wing politicians circuit and stuff, like performing at fucking APAC and shit.
Right.
Maybe not what's the one that's The conservative one? Oh,
CPAC.
CPAC. CPAC.
Yeah.
APAC is not the one I'm thinking of.
Not the one you're thinking of, no.
But like it's
Alyssa's here, by the way.
it's just interesting. Like, you know, you can see clearly it's like a business decision. Like it's like Jim Brewer or something. You know, he has a very, very specific brand of comedy.
Yeah.
That most people find really obnoxious.
Yeah.
And like those people just eat it up. So he just obviously
He
gravitated.
goes and gets the money.
Yeah.
He goes and gets the money. That's what
But,
I'm
like,
saying.
do you- but
Justin
do
Baldoni is a Baha'i, and he's feeding off of basically what is a Christian,
Yeah.
you know, a Christian right propaganda channel, you know, of
Like there's
of
a
influencers.
There's a
and-
very small portion of the consumer population that wants you to talk about God all the time.
correct.
And like, so my question is like, so for these like comedians that do like the, you know, far right events and stuff like that, do you feel like they regretted their decision? I mean, they have a career, they're working, but like, do you think they're kind of miserable because like they're never going to get invited back into like the mainstream? You know what I mean? So what do you think of, like, do you think that ends up being a good decision or a bad decision for them?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch, I suppose, but I don't know.
Would you like to hear from the chat?
Yeah.
I'm so glad to see everybody today.
I saw Cosmic say something. He said, "I've never been able to stand Blake Lively," and you know what is interesting about that? Because like I've had my share of celebrities that I didn't like. Like Steven Seagal is another one, like a good example of a guy I was like, it never rubbed me like the right way in terms of like even his, you know, when I was into all that, you know, I used to watch all the, you know, Bruce Lee and all, you know, I loved all that shit, and then you know even Chuck Norris, but then comes this guy Steven Seagal. And I'm like, this guy just rubs me the wrong way. So I get not liking a celebrity or an actor or whatever. I don't get hatred. I don't get vitriol. I don't get like loathing of somebody you don't know. I don't get the idea that you could allow your point of view on somebody to be painted so thick with hatred and vitriol over things that you can't possibly know to be true unless the evidence is profound and empirical. And so it just blows my mind that people get so feverish in their opinions about these superficial people, because that's all they are in their world. They're just superficial people that show up on pages or wherever it might be. They're not real in terms of our actual lives or interactions. They don't have anything to do with our well-being or any state of our being. But yet some of us will allow them to drive us absolutely crazy. The things that Andy Signor was saying about Blake Lively, I could not believe. I could not believe that he would be so foul about somebody he didn't even know.
There's got to be so much ignorance in order to make any of these claims. Like I was thinking earlier today that if Justin Baldoni or any of the people who are siding with him ever even heard of the concept of a studio cut versus a director's cut, we wouldn't be here.
Right.
Like, why isn't anybody explaining to these people?
Well, that's not true.
What Blake Lively created out of that movie for Sony was the studio cut, and what Justin Baldoni was whining about not having was his director's cut, and that's like a really common conflict in filmmaking, and I don't know why nobody understands that.
Well, because they don't. This is the point. This is where the hatred, the vitriol. This is when that comes into the mix here. Because if you look at things objectively, right? Because what you're asking for is an objective approach to something. Like I send a text to Andy Signor warning him that many of the things that he thinks are some kind of violation by Blake Lively to the production are not.
Yeah.
That they're strictly not. Like this stinks, buddy. That's basically what I told him.
She's doing super normal stuff.
Didn't want to see it. Didn't want to believe it. It's not about the fact that they don't. It's that they don't want to. It's that they refuse it at the door. And that begs the question, why? Why does Andy Signor want to hate Blake Lively? Why does Andy Signor want to take the side of Justin Baldoni? And to me, there are only two possible answers. There could be more, but to me, there are only two. And the two answers I see are A, he's an accused SA guy, right? Who he believes got wrongfully accused and dragged into the Me Too movement. Right? And he is now scorned, and hell hath no fury like Andy fucking Signor scorned. And so he now hates all women. And so every opportunity he gets, or all women involved in any kind of an accusation, let's put it that way, right? He's got himself a fiancée. I'm sure he loves her deeply. He may even have a daughter or two. I have no fucking idea. He probably loves his mother. He doesn't hate all women. I'm saying he might hate all women who claim that men harassed them, that men harmed them.
God, it just sounds like we're like stuck in the fucking 1950s.
So
like people are just supposed to fucking bear it, like getting harassed in the workplace. They're just supposed to deal with it.
So he's either that, right? This man scorned, right? Mm-hmm. Or he's a paid shill. Because Blake Lively has had no interaction in his life. I don't know if Cosmic Urgency actually hates Blake Lively, like physically, viscerally.
I've never been able to stand Blake Lively. So, like, there's actors that I don't want to watch their movies or something because they just...
Sure.
You know.
Turn you off. They're not fun to watch. You know? I've had actors that I felt that way about a long time, and then it got turned around, and somehow I started enjoying them. So, you know, it's just, that's taste. That's pop culture. That's like listening to music and not liking pop. You know, we had a conversation about Taylor Swift, and there was somebody who was talking about how they cannot fucking stand Taylor Swift, and I was like, maybe you can't stand pop music. Because she talked about, like, her reference about what she couldn't stand was more about it being pop music.
Yeah, right.
And then I responded, you can't get mad at the blues guy for playing the blues.
Right. It's just not made for you. You're just not the audience.
Right. And that's a totally separate thing than feeling the kind of hatred that these so-called influencers have had toward Blake Lively. The hatred that has been pointed at her is the kind of stuff that can drive people to deleting their lives.
But, oh my God, so here's, like, why aren't people questioning why she exists in this movie in the first place? It's because of Justin Baldoni.
Yes.
You know, he partnered with Sony. Sony put forward names of here's the big stars that we're willing to pay for.
Yes.
And he was like, okay, I picked this one.
Well,
so, like, if everybody on his side hates her, well, he's the one to blame for her being involved in the first place.
I just have to fucking interject because he said he picks this one. That's not what happened. She picked him. That's not what happened. He didn't pick anybody.
Well, at the meeting, like
it's an important distinction.
They deal with it.
It's an important distinction because Blake Lively is the one who brought the value to the property.
No, that's why Sony put her name forward.
So she picked the property because she, and I've explained this before. I want to explain it one more time so that people understand the gift that was Blake Lively to Justin Baldoni, not the other way around.
But did he not have any decision in bringing her on?
Of course. Well, what do you mean by that?
As the director.
Sure, he had some decision in it. I mean, as far as like him looking.
Okay, so chill out. That's just my point. My point is that if people are upset that Blake Lively is involved in this film, or that she's involved in anything because they don't like her, well, he's the one to blame for putting her in this situation, right?
I'm trying to tell you that he didn't put her in this situation. She chose the movie. She chose Justin Baldoni. Justin Baldoni represented to her the kind of director that she felt she could be empowered by, that she could feel safe with, the kind of power, the kind of director and filmmaker and producer and production company that she felt would enable her and embolden her in her aspirations going forward. She bought the man enough Justin Baldoni. She believed she was getting involved with somebody who was going to lift her up on all levels in her career. That's the only reason she would have gone with a guy who had only directed one time before that. That's the only reason why a star of that caliber would go that. Obviously, the property is a hot property, right? The Colleen Hoover book is a hot property. But the only reason she's going to go is because the package made sense. Because it's not fucking Martin Scorsese. It's not Woody Allen. It's not some prestigious,
she worked with before. Like, she's working at a level that's, like, higher than this.
She's the highest level. She's a fucking star stuff. I don't care if you don't like her. She's still top of the fucking food chain, bro. And you don't, unless you're Steven Spielberg or you're Woody Allen or these other fucking giant fucking movie filmmakers, unless you're at that level, it's the other way around. The stars are the ones choosing you. She's not auditioning to get a job with Justin Baldoni whatsoever. It's the other way around. She is the one that gifted the production. And she knew that going in.
Right. I was simply making the point about if they don't like her, Justin Baldoni is to blame for her being involved in that project. Because he could have cast somebody else that people would like. If he didn't like her, he shouldn't have hired her.
Yes, if he didn't like her, he did like her though, didn't he?
That's right.
He was crazy about her. I honestly believe in this. I believe this is my opinion, and this is for entertainment purposes only. I believe that Mr. Baldoni wanted to sleep with her. I believe he wanted to have an affair with her. That little growl to
Horrible.
me tells me everything. And the idea that he's like in this like intimate setting and talking about their spouses, that's such a cheater's move, bro. It's just a cheater's move. Like if I was writing a cheater, that would be in the dialogue like that. That would be in the dialogue.
I think I've read this before, that's really predictable. If they're talking about their spouses, especially if they're complaining about their spouses, then they're really testing the waters about whether you will accommodate whatever their complaints are. If you'll help them.
It eventually leads to that inevitable door opening or closing conversation about, really, he's not making you happy? Or, oh man, you don't have that kind of fun anymore? Come on, let's go have some fun.
Yeah.
It's these mechanisms, these like little systems that, it's like remember that video I showed of the alpha male training program where they literally like taught the dudes how to like put their hands in their pockets and make their thumbs are out. You got
to make sure your thumbs are out, or else you're never going to look like an alpha male.
You won't be an alpha male. People will trample you.
That's a sure tell that you're a beta or even an omega.
The kind of person
ridiculous.
The kind of person that would loathe somebody they don't know to the extent that they would try to harm them publicly is, to me, a really low level human being. Like, you're at the bottom of the barrel of humanity.
I think that he was so averse to taking any accountability for his own behavior that he thought that if he could destroy her reputation, then he would be able to make her accusations not credible.
Well, he was in a panic and he needed to try and stop the bleeding. And we already know, just if you read his book or you read the first chapter of his book, that he is somebody who doesn't handle that kind of situation all that well.
Dude, and you're totally right. And it makes me feel so sad for him, because all throughout his book, he's talking about how exhausting it is to always feel like you're under attack and always have to wear armor.
Yeah.
And it's all just completely made up. Like in his book, he talks about it really figuratively. He doesn't actually talk about anything specifically that's happening to him. He just always feels like he has to like be armored for constant attack.
This whole fucking scenario is his own making. This whole scenario is Justin
Don't you feel kind of sorry for him?
Baldoni constructed. What?
Don't you feel kind of sorry for him?
No, I don't feel the least bit of sorry for him. I feel sorry for the people who could have gotten a hold of that property and made that property brilliant. And instead now that property fell in the hands of this guy and all this shit. No, I don't feel sorry for him. He's practically ruined Blake Lively's perfectly fine career.
No, that's true. I do kind of feel sorry for him in the fact that
I think he's pathetic.
I feel sorry for him in the way that I feel sorry for anybody with paranoid delusions, because I think that's what he was dealing with.
Listen, when you harm somebody, my sympathy evaporates so quickly. As soon as you are deliberately harming people, he deliberately engaged in people who he knew would focus on bringing her harm. He sent those people a document that clearly showed what he wanted, which was that Blake Lively be exposed as a bully, and that was a lie. And he wanted to create this lie so that people would hate her or turn against her and try to believe him so that he could save his own ass for the things that he did wrong, for the things that he fucking created in his own workspace that he owned.
Yeah, I know. I just, I'm not saying that I forgive anything that he did. I just feel sorry that he's so fucking nuts.
If he was here right now, I'd choke him out.
I feel sorry for people that are fucking nuts. I think he lost his mind, and I think that he created a big mess. And I don't know whether he's woken up from that spell yet. Like, I don't know whether he's on vacation and he's like, shit, dude, I don't want to go back to the States because I created a goddamn disaster that I gotta go deal with.
I don't think he lost his mind in a single situation. This isn't his first lawsuit. This guy's a problem.
Is that a fly?
He's just a problem. I don't know. This guy's a problem. You know what I mean?
He's a problem.
He's a problem. This is first lawsuit. He had a 5-year-old, whatever. This thing broke out a year ago now. So he had a 5-year-old company and he already had 3 lawsuits in 5 years. And not only that, but this was the second lawsuit of retaliation. So he was already legally familiar with what eventually became the big issue in this case, retaliation. He was already legally familiar with it because he had already been accused of it. Credibly.
Guilty Angel says Andy Signor throws the stone and then hides his hand.
Yeah, that's well said.
I know, it's great.
That's really well said.
Let's see. Oh, Delicate says, I missed what happened with Sassy Dave Navarro. What happened? I'm so tired.
Aww.
I know, it's a lot.
God. Sassy Dave Navarro's. You know, the funny thing about Sassy
They've
Dave...
just started to call us lively bots.
Yeah.
Which is such projection.
And the other thing that Sassy Dave Navarro said is that he came out and he was like, I don't know what these Blake Lively bots are talking about, because all of us said that it was clearly a legal win for Blake Lively. Well, yeah. That's like when Brian Friedman said, you don't see Justin Baldoni taking a victory parade. Well, that's because he lost, buddy. You know, I mean, you're obviously losing the case.
Yeah,
you got kicked out of court.
They're just dipping their toe into a realization that they got lied to, but they're not actually gonna dive in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he just took that one step further, he would be able to recognize that the reason why it was a win for Lively is because everything you guys have been told is a lie that he didn't support with any evidence.
Yes.
And the judge said it was false. And I don't understand why they can't be like, oh, yeah, well, he lost because we were lied to. I don't know why they're not angry. Like, they should be angry for being manipulated like this.
They were lied to.
Yes.
It's right there. You guys have been lied to. This was their chance. This was their opportunity to come out.
But they're
and
not
be
engaging in it with any sort of like understanding about what this actually means. Just that he lost and she won, and that we're gloating and they're sad.
Well,
think about what happened, bro.
It's worse than that. They're saying that she lost, but he won, but justice is still coming for him.
Come on.
It's worse than that. It's worse than that, because these people have completely lost their minds. They're completely delusional in this. This was the time. This was the opportunity to jump ship and be like, holy shit, this guy didn't have a case. Everything that every fucking, all of us who were looking at that complaint and saying, this complaint is a joke, written by somebody who is clearly attempting to gaslight people. And it didn't work. It's not going to work in a court of law. And those of us who knew that because of either previous experience, my experience in my own personal litigation, or if you're an attorney, you knew when you read that document. Or, you're a layman and you knew you don't even have litigation experience and personal litigation experience. And you read that document and knew immediately that it was gaslight.
I was simply trying to match up his claims with the evidence that he provided in his own filing. And the evidence was like completely the opposite of what he was saying was happening. So I was like, okay, well, where's the evidence that supports what you're saying? And apparently the judge too was like, yeah, that's missing. Delicate said, it's fine to not like Blake, but her actions have never gotten her sued, unlike Wayfarer and Justin.
Exactly. And exactly. I agree with you completely. It's okay to not like Blake. We can not like people in celebrity.
Well, but also, like, I wanted to make this point earlier, is that if people don't like her because they think that she's rude in interviews, like, then so they don't have that same smoke for like Scarlett Johansson, who's rude when she doesn't like the questions being asked of her, or Anne Hathaway also is like she'll get snarky with an interviewer who she thinks is inappropriate.
Probably every single actor has.
Yeah, Blake Lively was being asked by Kirsty Flaw about her body, like opened up with like, "Hey, let's talk about your belly," and apparently people are saying that the reason why Blake Lively was upset about that was because they said beforehand they had a discussion about it, and Kirsty Flaw was supposed to understand that she didn't want to discuss her pregnancy, that she was there to promote the movie and she didn't want to talk about how she's, starting a family. So like, what does Kirsty Flaw do? But she opens with that. Like, I'd be fucking testy too,
Totally. Can I get two things from you? First, can I buy one of those waters? And second, there's some drama in the chat in YouTube. Will you help us with that?
I haven't scrolled down yet.
Yeah. I kind of invited some controversy, I suppose. I'll just get the water. It's cool. Let me get it.
It seems we have somebody who isn't typically here.
Yeah, Monica.
Monica Sanchez.
Thanks for coming by, Monica Sanchez.
Monica Sanchez is saying, I am because y'all are nuts.
We're nuts?
I don't want to do this today. You know what I mean? Like, we spent months doing this with people like Monica Sanchez who thinks we're nuts. Like, just go someplace else, bro.
Yeah, Monica, if you think we're nuts, then you can move on and go find people that you think aren't nuts.
Yeah.
People who make you feel whole and beautiful.
I feel like it's not worth your time. I feel like it's definitely not worth our time. And I don't think anybody in the comments wants to make time doing this with you either, so...
You know what else is not happening, Monica? Literally none of us are seeking out people we don't like. We're literally seeking out people we like. Like, most of the people that come here in our small little space that we have like each other most. Sometimes differences break out, but we're amicable and cool about it. We're not shitty, and we don't like treat people badly just because we have different opinions.
Yeah.
If that's the kind of thing that you do, maybe this isn't the place for you to hang out. Do you know what I mean?
That's cool. I'd like to keep going through the chat if we can.
Yeah, please. There's also loads up in TikTok. We're going to get to you, TikTok. I love you guys.
Delicate said, please clip this rant, Dale. I want it to go viral so I can share it. When you were ranting.
What's that? Say what?
Delicate says,
Oh.
Please clip this rant, Dale. I want it to go viral and so I can share it.
Okay, yep, I'll clip it tonight. I will. I'll get off this and I'll clip it before I go back and sit in the living room and hang out with you.
Alyssa said, replied to Cosmic Urgency saying, I honestly can't stand her either. She comes off as rude, but I don't think that she did what Baldoni is saying she's doing. Her and Meghan Markle speaking about her jam gives the same vibes. You know, I do have issues with Meghan Markle, and the only issues that I have is that she cooks in her cooking segments with her rings on.
Oh. What is going on?
I don't know anything about her or her personal situation or any of her history or any of her story whatsoever, but if you do a cooking segment and you are keeping your rings on, or even like not as bad, but still bad as if you wear those like really long flowy sleeves that drag all over your counters and inside your pants.
She does sleeve police in my kitchen, bro. If I'm wearing sleeves, she'll come rushing in out of nowhere. Sleeve police! And she'll just roll up my sleeves past my elbows, and I'll be like, they weren't touching. She was like, they were going to touch.
I will have no sleeves in my food.
By the way,
take your fucking rings off. Jesus Christ.
But by the way, since we're a little breaking topic here, we had a little bit of a breakthrough on YouTube. I mean, YouTube, we've really been struggling with numbers, and the only people that have normally come to watch us on YouTube, but for a few exceptions, have been the people we picked up on TikTok. And they've come over to YouTube because they want to see your pretty face.
I'm sure that's why. Yeah.
And but yesterday we had like over 100 folks come by. We had our biggest night. And I celebrate the little milestones, you know. I wrote a book that took 4 years to create, and I celebrated that first chapter like nobody's business, and it didn't even make it in the book. So I like small milestones, and we had a small milestone yesterday.
That's fun. We should celebrate.
Yeah, you know.
Let's make some sushi. Okay. Everybody seems to agree that she wasn't the right casting. I'm with you guys on that. They definitely could have stuck with the, you know, for such like a popular book, they probably should have stuck with somebody more like the character described.
Yeah, like, that's a super healthy conversation about like that film fans have about films, right? They're like, you know, when
adaptations are always problematic.
When Tom Cruise got cast for Lestat, you know, all of us fans of Anne Rice's vampire
Interview with the
series,
Vampire? Yeah.
Well, just that whole series, nobody wanted Tom Cruise for Lestat. Absolutely nobody. I was practically furious about it.
Yeah.
You know, and sure, Tom Cruise like got knocked down a couple of notches in my level of love for him in the moment, because I was like, man, you shouldn't have taken this role. This role doesn't belong to you. It belongs to somebody else, to whom I don't know, but not to you. And you know, so that's like really healthy, beautiful stuff. That's like what being a film fan is all about. I love being a film fan and talking about, you know, shit like bad casting choices or good casting choices. That's all awesome. And yeah, you know, she's probably not the perfect casting choice, but the film almost made $400 million. So somebody knew something.
Cosmic Urgency said, whoever cast the love of my life, Brandon Sklenar, is the person whose side I'm on.
Brandon Sklar?
Sklenar. He's in It Ends With Us.
He is?
Yeah.
Oh, Brandon.
I agree with Erica. Erica says, I just hate the level of hate that a lot of women get for the slightest reason. I don't have strong feeling for Blake, but I know a smear campaign when I see one.
Exactly. That's it. You know, I've always said, like, Blake Lively is nothing to me. I've never met her. I don't know her. In fact, the only exposure I really have to her is that she was once Leonardo DiCaprio's girlfriend, and that's not like a mark in a good side of the book for me. Like, I'm not like, oh, cool, she was actually in love with Leo. That's got to be somebody I'm going to get along with. Do you know what I mean? Like, I had no, you know, affection or affiliation to Blake Lively. I have an interest in the truth, and I also despise, and I mean I loathe, people who try to destroy other people's lives or who try to destroy other people's reputation with lies. Because I'm living that every fucking day. I have to live with that.
Yeah, and it's also just absurd. Like, how stupid do you have to believe that Blake Lively or anybody could steal a film from Justin Baldoni when he has his production company paying for everything, and then Sony is paying for all the rest of the distribution and marketing.
Right.
Like, what power could she possibly have? Who did she steal it from? How was it stolen? Like, really, nobody's trying to think through like the elements of the accusation. Like nobody wants any details about how this was done. It's just an accusation. It makes literally no fucking sense.
This was the big red flag that I reached out to Andy Signor about, which is like, I said to him, literally, they're preying on people's ignorance about the movie industry. They're literally trying to create something that is not real in terms of tension or conflict or violations by anybody or mistakes by anybody. Like the idea that she used a little bit, that she went over on wardrobe is not going to be some kind of catastrophic problem that is going to highly impact either her reputation or the movie itself.
And why does he want $400 million for any of the things that he's accusing her of doing that he can't even explain?
I mean, we already know that his lawsuit is bunk. It got kicked out of court.
Goodbye. Yeah, Alyssa says, I don't really like Blake, but at the end of the day, she did not take the movie from Justin.
She did. Of course she didn't.
Delicate said...
He still owns it.
I know.
He still owns the fucking movie. He's still
profiting off of it. Delicate said... about the Kirsty Flaw interview where she's apparently being a bully, which is a stretch. She said Blake also had not announced her pregnancy at that point. I'd heard that too, but it's a little unbelievable to me, just because she's showing so obviously, and she's wearing a really tight dress. So it's not like she's. You didn't notice?
Nope.
Well, I just feel like it's. I heard that too, and I was just like, really? Like, so why is she wearing like skin tight clothing? And she just obviously looks like she's showing. So
I didn't notice it one bit. I had no idea. And it doesn't matter. You know, it still doesn't matter. Like, you know, just because somebody noticed it doesn't mean it's a topic for conversation. You know what I mean? Like, I got a big nose, you know, I don't want to have a fucking conversation about it necessarily. You know what I mean?
You brought it up. Now you want to talk about it?
Well, I brought it up, so now it's, you know, now I've exposed myself. Now I'm vulnerable. She didn't bring it up, did she?
Everybody can see your big nose. Nobody was looking at it before.
She didn't bring it up though, did she?
No,
she didn't. That would be Miss Flaw who brought it up.
Yeah, I know, and it's also really. Okay, so this was at the time, too, where there was like literally a hashtag called Ask Her More, hashtag Ask Her More, because a bunch of entertainment professionals were really critical of these entertainment journalists who kept asking them like really sexist questions, you know, like, what are you wearing? What did you wear underneath your, you know, like I remember there was like Anne Hathaway had to answer a question about what she wore underneath her cat suit. And she's like, I'm sorry, do you ask the guy who played Batman that?
Right.
Like, what the fuck is your problem?
Fuck you.
Like, what is this all of a sudden? So anyway, there was a whole hashtag. And if Kirsty Flaw was a professional, she should have known about that. And she opened the interview talking about her body. It's just, like, so insensitive.
Imagine this. Kirsty
Flaw.
Kirsty, it is Kirsty.
I'm even pronouncing it wrong. It's, I don't know. She pronounces it on her channel differently, so
as it's probably supposed to be pronounced. Anyway, whatever her fucking name is, Miss Flaw. As Miss Flaw, so just think about this. Miss Flaw was in this interview apparently offended so badly that years later, when she's coming out, she's had, I don't know, whatever, 5 movies that had come out between that interview and this new, and had a baby or two. And the Ends With Us release of that film, right? So there's like, she's had like 3-4 films released since then. But suddenly this woman has taken so much offense years later. Just, it all came back to her. All the terrible treatment by Blake Lively.
She said, this is the interview that made me want to quit my job.
That made me want to quit my job. Years later.
Well, bro, you're fucking bad at it. You should know better than to fucking ask a star about their body as soon as you open the interview. Like,
years
I'm sorry,
later,
but like in this day and age, you don't fucking do that. You don't do that unless you're asking them in advance. Like, hey, would you like to talk about your pregnancy? I would like to ask you about your pregnancy.
I think she knew. You
guys aren't girlfriends.
Look, Blake Lively said there's a conversation out there that Blake Lively said that the conversation about her pregnancy was off limits, right? So there was a boundary there apparently, right? She said that there was like that don't ask or whatever. Was there a boundary? Was there?
She was saying, I want to talk about the movie I'm promoting. I don't want to talk about me starting a family. Like, right. If that's okay, I don't want to talk about my personal life, which is interesting because Blake Lively's 12th house is in Cancer.
Uh-huh.
And so it's not a coincidence that she's very private about her family and her home life. that's all very isolated.
So
and that's how she
interesting
likes
that
it.
Jupiter went into the 12th house and she's knocking fucking Baldoni down like a bowling ball. And and the hidden enemies that he brings with. Like literally she's exposing hidden enemies. Jupiter just moves into her 12th house and like everything is expanding in terms of her defeating her hidden enemies.
It's so interesting because
amazing.
we were listening to an astrologer today talk about what for Leo risings, which is what Blake Lively is, what that means when Jupiter enters your 12th house is that you might feel more restored as a result of rest, or you could get to start a new beginning as a result of some difficult struggles that have just ceased. And that's totally the story about what she's going through. Like having all those lawsuits dismissed and stay dismissed is definitely like exactly coincided with Jupiter moving into her 12th house. So now she gets this like renewed, it's like a new day for her. Like she gets to completely emerge from this really difficult struggle that she's had trying to fight this idiot. And now it's like, you know, she gets this like renewed, reinvigorated new chance to just fight her fight.
I love it. And I love that all these people are going to lay in their embarrassment, and I can't wait till she exposes them all for the shills that they fucking are. I can't believe that these guys have left themselves so exposed, so easily exposed. Like honestly, Andy Signor, you look ridiculous. Like it's so obvious. It's so obvious, and it became obvious to me all the way back then when I texted him and I was like, "Yo, bro, like you're getting on the wrong side of this thing." I knew immediately that this was completely outside of logic and outside of common sense and outside of fact, that there was there was something personal happening immediately with him. And by the way, I say that it's not personal. I honestly, the guy, like that first video, he's literally like being like, "Oh guys, this doesn't look so good for Justin Baldoni. I mean, this is like good evidence." And then like a switch, he turned into a fucking maniac overnight. And to me, that's a phone call. And that's how quickly it goes. Listen, I had a phone call with a writer at New York Magazine. And this writer also wrote the Vanity Fair article on me on Dawn's Plum. Listen to this story because this is a really interesting story, okay? So I get interviewed to do for Vanity Fair. The article is supposed to be on basically how Tobey Maguire, like the evil of Tobey Maguire, essentially, right? From my perspective. And we had a long conversation before we did the interview because I didn't want to just do the interview blindly. I wanted to know what I was getting into. So the writer had set it all up, and then the article turned out to be fucking shitty. It didn't cover any of that. And he wrote to me and he said, "How did you feel about the article?" And it wasn't until 2 years later that I opened up that email and well, that's not true. At first I responded to that email and I told him that the article that he wrote was an embarrassment to me, that it was not the truth, that it didn't represent what happened whatsoever,
or your interview,
or the interview, or the article that he said he was going to write.
Yeah, that's the worst part.
And that's definitely the worst part. And then he responded after that, and it was that response that I didn't open for 2 years. 2 years later, I opened it up, and in his response, he told me about all the interference that he got from Leonardo DiCaprio's camp at Vanity Fair to completely destroy that article. And where I'm going with this is that after I finished, or just when I was about to finish writing the book, within a year of finishing the book, I reached out to him after reading that email and seeing that he had seemingly total regrets about the way that the article had gone. He was highly apologetic. And I was like, well, this might be perfect for me because I've just written this book, and this might be an opportunity for him to kind of correct this. So I reached out to him and I go, "Hey dude, I'd be interested in maybe working with you on an exclusive." He went crazy excited. He called it redemption for him. He threw all these possibilities of what we were going to do. He was like, "Do you want to do an op-ed? Do you want to do a excerpt with an intro and outro? Do you want me to do an article? Like, how do you want to do this? I want this to work. This is going to be redemption." He was so fucking excited, Angela. And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to have New York Magazine," which is, even though they don't have like a big following, they get picked up all over the world. So it was going to be huge exposure for me in the end, like long term, you know, the big play. All of a sudden, he turned. He completely turned overnight and acted as if that conversation never happened. He acted as if he didn't say to me, "Don't worry about Vulture. Don't worry about New York Magazine. We don't get bossed around by Leonardo DiCaprio, and I want this. He was adamant about it, and then he completely flipped and told me, I'm sorry, but I can't guarantee you anything. I'll take a look at it.
But you don't know what happened.
Yeah, I do.
Well,
anecdotally.
you're assuming, right?
The same thing that happened at Vanity Fair.
Yeah, it sucks.
And it's the same thing that happened with Andy Signor, in my opinion. Only my opinion. But I believe Andy Signor was looking at this thing from an objective point of view, the way normal and everyday people would. He opened up the complaint. He saw everything that we saw. He saw them setting up Blake Lively to ruin her reputation globally. And he commented that he saw it that way on him. And I bet you that video is still up. And days later, he completely flipped on her. And that to me is a phone call by publicists. And that's how this shit works. And that's the inside that everybody now gets to see. That's the belly of the beast that otherwise we would never have known about were it not for really Blake Lively.
I know, it's such a gift.
Yeah, she is helping so many people. She's changed the game for everybody because you know what? I didn't know about Mr. Wallace, but I saw what he was doing in my comment section.
I feel a little frustrated that people aren't more enlightened as a result of this. Like, you're really being lied to. You're really being manipulated. And they're still just like eating it up like it's still the truth. Like they're not admitting that they're astroturfing. Yeah. That they're not admitting that they're just like completely manufacturing narratives and going in and posing as if they're regular people who have inside information. But they're not regular people. They're paid publicists. Like it's a little like we learned so much from these filings and the evidence that Blake Lively provided from the publicist that turned on Justin Baldoni.
Yeah.
And it's just really surprising that other people aren't learning the same lesson that we did. About like you got to be really skeptical about what they're saying on that side because they admitted that they're manufacturing a narrative.
What else you got in the comments?
My best friend Hugo on TikTok has a question for you.
Yeah.
What's
going on, best friend Hugo?
What do you think would have been the way to have finished this movie where both are happy?
Oh, with it ends with us?
Yes.
All they needed to do was address the issues and the complaints that were lodged against whomever they were lodged against at Wayfarer's level. All they needed to do was the HR. They just needed to do the HR. They needed to, I've said this before, this is exactly what I would have done. As soon as that complaint hit, especially if I'm Justin Baldoni, but even if I'm not, even if I'm just a regular schmo guy and I'm running my production, and then all of a sudden there's a complaint and that complaint is SH, I'm stopping my production. I'm getting everybody in the room together. I'm saying there was a complaint lodged. I won't necessarily name who the parties were because we're going to maintain privacy here. If they want to talk about it, it's up to them. They're welcome to. They're welcome to. But I want to address on my set.
Day one,
that there have been complaints. And it's not going to be tolerated. That's not going to be tolerated.
Not the complaints.
SH is not going to be tolerated on my set. SH is not going to be tolerated on my set. No fucking way. And I'm going to create an environment in that chat that I have with my whole production that lets them know that there's a pathway to remedying any complaints in the future and that they should not feel any kind of fear and intimidation, that anything that's happening, because I would immediately recognize that as in the same way that you would like see like mold that you have to cut out of something that you want to keep to eat. You know what I mean? Like I would see that as a cancer that you can remove immediately. So I would stop my production. I would have a big, you know what they actually did? Jamie Heath actually made fun of it. He actually made a joke about getting an HR complaint. And that's why they're where they are. That's why their production company has been completely ruined. That's why, despite the fact that they created a near $500 million success, that they're finished.
Yeah, he should have seen it for the risk that it turned out to be, right? Like it ended up being like you don't just see one termite, you see a whole infestation when you see the one, right? He should have seen that. He was like, this whole thing is going to come crashing down if I don't deal with this very small problem right here at the level where it's small. Let's not make this monster grow any bigger.
He also knew that he was dealing with Blake Lively, who he knew to be friends with Taylor Swift, had to believe in that there's like, like attracts like situation there, that, you might have somebody who's going to be strong, stern, and stand up for themselves. They already know that she's a part of a sort of Hollywood royalty, I suppose you could say, or at least certainly a Hollywood powerhouse with Ryan Reynolds and all of his money and endeavors and his great success with what's that one now? Dead Man? No, what's it called? Deadpool.
See, that this is another reason, like a huge reason why I think that the his paranoia about her dragons text is bullshit. Because that was before they'd started production, right? Those were pre-production meetings.
Yeah.
And so if he was so paranoid about her making any threat, right? I have dragons and I'm going to offer my dragons to you, is what she did say. But if he thought that was maybe some sort of veiled threat or something, then why the fuck was he misbehaving? Why the fuck, if he thought that there was like a big threat before they'd even started production, why is he acting so cavalier and dismissing complaints and like being all touchy-feely with everybody if he thinks that there's this like looming threat that is now a part of his production?
I mean, this is it exactly.
From the very beginning. Like,
these
that
are
makes
dragons.
no sense. It's got to be a lie, because he would have changed his behavior if he actually thought that he was going to be threatened by her.
I have been intimidated by people before. My father, bullies. I've been intimidated by people. And when they've shown that side, that aggressive side toward me, I back off. I don't confront it.
Yeah, or like you change your behavior so that you can placate them and, pacify them and make sure that everybody's happy. And that's the thing, like I'm like peripherally an observer of Hollywood stuff. Like I know a lot about how movies are made just because I know you, but I've never actually been involved myself.
Yeah, and you've been involved with other filmmakers as well. But
I know that there's that saying, you got to make the star happy. Like all the time. It doesn't matter whether they're being completely irrational in their requests. Like you got to do it and make them happy, because they can cause big problems that you want to avoid.
It's how we ended up with stories about all the green Skittles or green jelly beans, or that happened as a result of that culture. The idea of keeping the star happy, and it's a really smart idea, because if you can keep that part, they're at the top. If they rattle,
they can cause the bigger problems.
Yeah, they are the epicenter. They're the epicenter of your production. So if they get shaken, we all experience an earthquake. We all experience this, everything gets thrown all over the place. They're that capable.
We're really doing a lot of metaphors in this conversation.
Too real. A metaphor.
Best friend Hugo wants to know, what's the prediction for March? What do you believe will be the result of all of this? Because March is their court date. Will there be a settlement?
No. She's gonna go to trial. She has no choice but to go to trial.
But she's settled now.
Yeah,
His case got dismissed.
Yeah, dude. She's like,
oh, I'm
he has no leverage, none. I think that the only way that there would be a settlement, which I strongly think will not happen, but the only way that there might be is if if Justin Baldoni completely admits to everything publicly. But I think she would much rather a judge or a jury be delivering that verdict and not him, because he's already proven to be completely... No, I mean, it's going to trial. It's going to trial.
There's still a big question. There's still a big question, too, about whether he's still liable for treble damages just for filing the lawsuit, even though it got dismissed.
They said they were going to file for treble damages. We'll see if they're going to follow through. They'll only be following through if they feel like they've got something to take to court. It's like the Diddy trial. They did a whole bunch of exercising of specific charges and kind of really like honed the verdict slip so that the jury wasn't going to be overwhelmed by, it's actually a really smart strategy. I guess apparently a strategy that, many lawyers use is to just like get it down so that the jury slip can be much cleaner.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about this now and just inform everybody what you're talking about? I saved this thing for us today to reference. Well,
no, let's hold off. Let's finish these questions. Let's continue with our crowd first, and then we'll get to that.
Okay, cool. So, what's your prediction for March? Who do you think is going to win?
Yeah, it's going to be a Blake Lively win. I've said this from the beginning. I've also said from the beginning that she's going to take this guy to trial. She's not going to let this man slip through anybody's fingers. I think a part of what she's doing is doing this for everyone else too. I think she's seeing herself as a part of something bigger than her own fucking problem. I think she's saying enough of this, not just Justin Baldoni, not just this kind of behavior on a set, not just retaliation, but PR. I think she's after the PR agencies. I think she's after exposing them for what they do, because they've been on this woman since fucking day one, and I think she's had it. And now the opportunity has finally exposed, has risen and given her the ability to expose to everybody just what these fuckers are up to and what they do and how they destroy lives and industry.
I think it's really interesting too, because her astrology chart says this too. Like, not just in the prediction about what's going to happen in March, but just as her character. I don't know Blake Lively, and I can't talk about her personally, but if you read her chart about this, she is extremely principled. And like, everybody's got principles. But there's some people who find purpose in exerting their principles, like sticking to their principles,
Especially
like
people with money.
defending their principles. Like, so she actually, I think that she feels really purposeful in making sure that this is a fight that she continues, because she believes, principally driven, that it is the moral fight, and that's
100%.
something that is really driving her.
100%.
She's also identifies with being a helper, because she has so many Virgo placements. So I think that her personal values are really wrapped up in being a helper. And I think that if she thinks she can help other people through what the outcome of this trial is, then that's going to drive her to continue.
Yep.
Best friend Hugo also said, Dale, can I show you my baby bump? It's full of Budweiser. That's what she should have told Christy
That's so
Blah.
great.
When she was like, oh, nice bump. Or whatever she said. She should have been like, oh, yeah, I had a bunch of beer.
It's just Budweiser, but thanks for asking about it. That's very funny.
Jenna's asking on TikTok, Dale, you've been interviewed many times. Has any interview ever gone wrong?
Every one of them. Every single one of my interviews have gone wrong. Every single fucking one. Part of the reason why I formed this channel and eventually led down this is because everything has been a mess. Every time I've tried to speak publicly, my words are distorted. The truth is distorted. It's why I wrote the book. The press is... It's just like a weird thing because it's like a necessary evil. I'm so sorry. Pardon me. You got me really upset, and it just caused, an
eruption.
An eruption of sorts. Yeah, building of internal pressure. But no, I mean, not one interview has gone well. My favorite was with Andy Signor, the Hugging the Cactus one, because he at least gave me enough room to wrestle back the story that I wanted to tell, and that was the truth, as opposed to the one that he was trying to narratively kind of like shape in his own terrible and lazy questions.
Nancy's asking, what about Blake and Taylor directing, producing a movie together?
I think it's a real possibility.
Best friend Hugo wants to know, oh, sorry, this is just a statement. This is great. She was smeared 100%, but as for the SH, I need more info. We'll wait for the trial and facts. I wish everybody had that attitude.
Yeah, Hugo, that's
exactly what we're supposed to be doing. It's so unusual for a lawyer to be like going to the press and telling so much information before a trial. It's just nuts. It's not normal.
I want to emphatically point out that the HS is really actually unimportant in this case. And the reason why it's unimportant is because it doesn't matter whether or not you think, or anybody thinks, or even a jury thinks, whether or not what she claimed was SH was SH. It doesn't matter. SH is a purely subjective thing, and it's not some kind of severe action. It's not typically the kind of thing that you would bring before a court. It might be something that you force in terms of like through some kind of other avenue, and maybe there are some legal remedies that you might want to seek if it's really bad SH, but most SH is, hey, these guys are talking inappropriately. This person, said something inappropriately. I'm getting hugged. I don't want to be hugged. These kinds of things. This person is like...
Jamie Heath showed me a picture of his nude wife in a birthing pool.
Yeah, and I would actually call that on the more severe side of an allegation, because you're literally showing something that's completely private.
While she was eating lunch.
Obviously something that you would want to ask. And you're also showing it to somebody who's had several children. So the whole thing was really in poor taste in every way. So that one's a little bit on the more extreme side. And with that, the SH, but I want to stress again, the SH is not the big deal here. It's the retaliation that matters. It's the fact that when SH got lodged as a complaint, that their response was retaliation and not a remedy to the problem that was being exposed.
I agree with this completely. It's weird proving SH. It's like that's such a gray area. Like there's such a spectrum about what people think is severe and what isn't, and so everybody's going to disagree about whether she's, proven well enough that she was actually harassed. It's like it's difficult to do, but all she has to do is prove that she was made uncomfortable, that she filed complaints, and that nothing was done, and their only course of action was to retaliate. All she has to do is show that she complained. It's a workplace, right? Like, this isn't like the context really matters in this. He is the boss at a workplace. She had a harassment complaint. He dealt with it by retaliating against her.
That's right.
And so, like, that's as relevant as the SH claims are, right?
Yeah.
That's the only it doesn't matter whether she was, whether she endured some trauma before her complaint. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
She was made uncomfortable.
Yeah, she complained.
It's a little bit irrelevant about how that went down, but she complained and literally nothing was done except for retaliation.
It's only irrelevant to the extent that it doesn't have anything to do with the retaliation. It's the retaliation that is the big problem here. The problem is that her career wasn't ruined because she lodged a complaint. Her career was ruined, or her reputation was ruined or damaged, because the person to whom she launched the complaint retaliated against her. So the SH isn't going to be that big of a deal in the end. I think it's a really tough thing to prove. I know that she has some pretty strong evidence because she has multiple claims from other people. There are eyewitnesses.
Yeah, it's a movie set. It's like teeming with people.
Yeah, and again,
also Sony executives are going to have a lot to say about that because they were told.
And there's like a lot going on. Like, let me tell you, I'll give you a nice little juicy thing that you can think about when it comes to the trial. She claims that she was in what is ultimately a protective patch over her genitals while she was in the pregnancy scene.
No, the birthing scene. Yeah,
the birthing scene, I should say, and where one of Justin Baldoni's best friends was playing the OBGYN in the delivery room, right?
Yeah.
Disgusting, right? They came back in their campaign, their PR campaign, saying that she was in pants, or that she had
tight shorts on. And I said back then, they're talking about the reverse angle. They're talking about the angle over her shoulder where the doctor's looking up and saying, give us a push, give us a breath, give us a whatever. And in that case, they're not going to have her naked, because that wouldn't be what Justin Baldoni would have been fighting for when he said that he felt that she had to be naked and in this authentic place for the scene to work. He wouldn't have fought for that over the shoulder, so she would put on her shorts. He would have only said that if the camera was swung around and they were going from doctor's POV. So... Or just, from the side POV of her face.
Where I'm going is that I bet that we learn that that's the truth, that there was the shot from the doctor's POV, and that in the doctor shot POV, she was in a patch. And when that happens, it's just going to be another moment where the Team Baldoni gets to sit and like soak in their tomato faces.
Kiara's with us on TikTok making jokes.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
I was saying that Blake Lively is a Leo rising.
Yeah.
She said Leo rising is when DiCaprio gets out of bed in The Revenant.
That's really funny.
It's really funny too because Dale has often been tormented by the the summertime and wintertime when Leo movies come out, and it's like this huge press thing and Leo's face is plastered everywhere. And
I've called it Leo season.
Yeah, so we call it
decades.
Leo season, and then like a few years later we both learned astrology, and I was like, oh, Leo season is a thing. Like that's when the sun is in Leo. Like, oh, okay, that's different. Yeah. It's a different time of year.
I know we have tons of comments. We also have a bunch on the other.
I'm getting there,
channel.
You guys.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm just saying, like, we're not going to move to the next topic until we get these sorted.
I can't read this username. Eris Ren 51. What I do get is Fla hates actors and movies, yet sued HFPA for not letting her in their little club.
Yeah, well, it is interesting. Like, why are you even in the business? Like, what are you doing in the business? Like, especially because it's not like she couldn't, like, if she's a so-called journalist with any credibility, that she couldn't, like, switch into sport or into maybe just dealing with child actors because maybe that's more fun for her, or like just trying to find a niche that makes more sense for her instead of like showing up in this state of loathing for the people that are the subject of her job, of her daily job. But I'll tell you, man, like the idea that she doesn't like actors is, I think, very apparent in everything that she's done and that she's said, and that she has any credibility to anyone is just mind-boggling to me. She's literally basically a substanceless party in all of this. She has no substance. She offers nothing of substantive value to any of it. The only thing this woman has any relevance at all to this story is that she interviewed her one day and she didn't like the way the interview went. And she has been the centerpiece of this fucking shit.
It's got to be so hard to interview celebrities. Sometimes you see these like celebrity interviews where they're like on their little, their little like folding chair and they're sitting across from somebody who's like got the big poster behind them or whatever. And you can just see like their guts are in their throat. Like these interviewers, sometimes they're so nervous.
Yeah.
Because they have to hold an interview with somebody who's like such a performer, so dynamic, so light on their feet. They're so quick-witted. It's just like such a challenge. I can't even imagine doing it. And I just feel like not everybody is built for that. Kirstie Flood doesn't seem like she was up for the job of like navigating like the high stakes job of celebrity interviewer.
Right.
Seems super difficult.
Delicate just made a comment. She was like, yes, Dale, you are 100%. It's subjective, meaning that SH is subjective.
Yeah.
And what's really important about this is that means that there's latitude for apologies and whatever necessary,
Oh yeah, he could have pivoted and owned. He could have very vaguely owned some wrongdoing and escaped all of this. I don't know why he didn't take that track. I don't know why he didn't like retreat over a golden bridge, as like Sun Tzu says.
Yes.
The art of war is evading a fight. Making it so that you don't have to engage in a battle.
Right.
And I don't know why that was never a strategy for him. He just like went headlong into a fucking fight that he created.
But the point I'm trying to make about SH is that SH can be ultimately a mild thing, and like a really because it's such a subjective thing. Like for example, I can say something like I'll do a line from Don's Plum because it just struck my mind. At one point in Don's Plum, Leo's just sitting there staring. He goes, "My balls itch." Now, if I said my balls itch in a group full of people, it might be just that I'm staring, like when he does it, he's like staring off into space and he goes, "My balls itch." And he's just staring off into space. It's a really funny moment. I'm glad you're laughing. Right?
It's so
now,
absurd.
If you say that in a group of people at your job, maybe you say it in front of 8 people. If one person was like, "Man, that's fucking inappropriate," and they go and file a complaint, all you got to do is say, "I'm sorry, I was just spaced out and I was a little itchy."
And it was true.
I was a little itchy and it hit me and I spouted it out. See, like, it doesn't have to be, it's not this big, like people when they put those two words together, SH, it's just like this, they immediately want to make it this big, horrific thing. And it doesn't have to be. And it almost always isn't. It's just this inappropriate moment or a moment that some one or more people found inappropriate in the workplace. That's all it is. And then you go and you file it and then you deal with it. And there's apologies and then the HR or the management steps in and they're like, or if it's management themselves, then they assure themselves that they're going to do, or they assure, the people with whom they're working that they're going to be better at it, that they're going to be more cognizant and aware of of the things that they're saying. It's just like an easy thing that SH is nothing. It's when it's SA that it becomes a problem.
On TikTok,
a bigger problem.
Eris on TikTok said, their own evidence shows him SHing her. The script said slow dance, not rub face all over hers.
Or growling in her ear like that. Or having this exchange about their personal lives.
He puts in that dance scene, she does a little turn, right? He like holds her arm up so she can do a little dance turn. And as she's turning back around, he pulls her closer and he growls in her ear. It's like this. It goes, Oh, that's horrible.
It's nasty.
That is sexual harassment.
That's
I'm so sorry. Like, you're not supposed to be doing that in a scene that's not recording audio. What is that?
And not only do I believe that you're right in saying that is it's SH, I believe that it's also like the worst kind, because it's not like an inappropriate comment or conduct. It's literal, like, on the person, like it's an act against another person, like growling in her ear like that. Oh my God! First of all,
you could see her face drop as soon as as soon as they yelled cut. She was like, "Get me the fuck out of here!
Get me out of here!" And not only that, but that moment, which they released so foolishly, was described by Melissa Nathan and Jennifer Abel as cringe, as awful, as creepy. It's so weird. It's very funny. I love it, actually. Dig in your own grave.
Oh, this is interesting. Delicate said, I think that her reticence to Blake Lively didn't want to mention her pregnancy in that interview. Delicate said, I think it's because her first pregnancy was high risk and there was issues. I think that's why she hadn't announced or wanted to talk about it.
My sister-in-law lost their child on the Sunday before they were going to C-section, to stillborn. And when they got pregnant again, and I mean, it was a tragedy in her family, obviously. I mean, they were literally going on the Monday to give C-section, and my niece was going to be born. And then my sister-in-law looked over at my brother and she said, something's wrong. This was on Sunday night. And Doug said, well, we're going into the doctor's tomorrow. Do you need to go now? And she was like, no, but I just sense something's wrong. And she went to sleep. And when she woke up, the baby was gone. It had passed. And so when she got pregnant again, they didn't tell anybody anything.
Yeah, I think
it took
that's
a
really
long
common.
time before they were ready to just talk about it.
Yeah.
And I've also known others who have gone through miscarriages, and who after miscarriages they're like zip, because they were like, you know, they got pregnant. It was like they got the test and they're like, I got that. Oh my god, you know.
Yeah, then your whole community grieves with you, and it makes it so much more painful.
Yeah. So, and there's also like this. A lot of pregnancies go through the Downs test, you know, where it's because of like a lot of mothers and families, they don't want to bring in Downs children, so they'll abort them if they get that Downs gene that they are able to detect at that age or whatever, which is still within the window of safe abortions or whatever. Anyway, these are all areas where people just don't want to talk about it, because these are all the vulnerabilities of pregnancy.
I know. I think you're supposed to trigger warning before you discuss these sorts of things, because they're so traumatic for people.
Apologies.
Delicate said Parker Posey was more combative in that interview, but she wasn't chosen to cancel. And it's true. She was like
she was nasty.
She was a real bitch.
You're right. Actually, she was way worse.
I know.
She's just generally more, you know, say razor-tongued.
Well, that's the thing, is a lot of people adore female celebrities for being a little spicy. You know, I'm not sure why.
Sassy, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know why the Blake Lively didn't get that grace. I mean, I think we do know why.
There's a hatred for her.
Smear campaign.
Yeah, I mean, there's a smear campaign, and there was also like this hatred for her that I just don't understand. I don't understand people. It's like one thing to not like an actor, but why would you actually devote any kind of energy toward, like, especially hateful energy toward somebody you don't know? It's really baffling to me, and it leaves me just totally dumbfounded. I've never hated an actor in my life that I've just like never hated it, but I've disliked many in terms of their work or even.
Cosmic Urgency said that's not true. People have been flooding Parker Posey's comment section about it, but I forgive Parker because I love her. I don't like Blake, so she's not forgiven. It's very forthright of you.
This is the trouble that these celebrities run into, and I do think it's true. I don't think you're right about that at all, Cosmic Urgency. I think that Blake Lively was. I think it's pretty obvious that Parker Posey has not been held to the same standard. I mean, come on. You know what? You know what else she got criticized for, Blake Lively? For working with Woody Allen. Let me just give you the cast of that. So there was this.
I know, he's always got these ensemble casts.
There was this.
But they'll just pick on one person for working with him.
So there was this whole like, early on there was this whole like.
It's called Cafe Society.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
2016 film. So, when all this broke out, they were trying to characterize her as this person who was like, first of all, they did an interview. They showed her on red carpet saying that Harvey Weinstein had never done anything to her, which is the truth.
Yeah, if she was asked about that and answered it, I don't understand.
She was like, oh, that didn't happen to me. That wasn't my experience with him. I never had that experience with him.
Yeah, she's not saying he never did it.
So they put that out there early on, and there was like comments just fueling like hatred toward her for this. So the 2016 Woody Allen movie called Cafe Society, for which she was highly criticized for being in during this Baldoni run early in it. All these social media accounts trying to expose her as being, oh, you're going to try to expose somebody for SH when you're literally supporting a guy like Woody Allen.
I think the connection that they made between Blake Lively and Harvey Weinstein was more just, they love to...
Sympathizer is the one I read.
Okay.
She was a sympathizer.
No, I understand. But I think what there was that where she said, he never attacked me, which is, a statement of fact. Like, I don't know why they're attacking her for that. But Leslie Sloan is Blake Lively's publicist.
Yeah.
And Leslie Sloan started a new company many years ago, many years before Harvey Weinstein was publicly exposed. Yeah. He partially funded Leslie Sloan's new publicity company. And so that's a connection for Leslie Sloan. And then Blake Lively was one of her clients.
I don't know. I never heard that one, but that's just like people just stretching.
I mean, it's true, but like you can't it's not
stretch. I mean,
those are degrees of separation that I feel like
everybody in Hollywood
really matter.
Everybody in Hollywood that has been around that was working during Miramax or during Harvey's reign at the top, all of them had some kind of interaction with him. I had interactions with Harvey Weinstein. And everybody involved in Hollywood had interactions with Harvey Weinstein, either by pitching or by working with him, one or the other. Everybody. So everybody's guilty. Here were the other stars that didn't get This is where I was going when we got sidetracked. But in Cafe Society, here are the other stars that none of them took any heat. One of them got nominated. Jesse Eisenberg got nominated for an Oscar last Oscar season. Nobody even mentioned the fact that he worked with Woody Allen. Jesse Eisenberg, Kristen Stewart, Steve Carell, Blake Lively. She's third in the star list. The top stars, Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart. Nobody even mentioned Kristen Stewart working with fucking Woody Allen. So, it's just a smear campaign in like the worst way. It's like you're sitting there like this cast is sick. It's like an absolutely sick cast that she was a part of. Of course she's gonna fucking say yes to that movie. And again, I don't really give a shit about Blake Lively, but like, can we speak truth? Can we just speak in fact?
Speaking of speaking truth.
Yes.
Here's an earlier question from
Hi.
Which I have saved because it was off topic.
Okay.
But now I'm bringing it back.
You ready?
Because you're going to close your show soon.
Let's go.
So I thought that I would ask you from I remember in the book when Leo said...
Too Real.
When in the book Too Real, a Hollywood memoir.
Too Real Hollywood memoir. By the way, if you haven't liked the live, please do so. I noticed yesterday we had our record day. We only had 5 likes on the live on YouTube. And I know I'm asking for a lot because you guys are here all the time. But if you could just help by just taking that one split second and just hitting the like button, you know how that helps. It is a shitty burden to put on you, but you're the only one who can do it, so I have to ask you. Go ahead.
Hi says, I remember in the book Too Real Hollywood Memoir.
Yes.
When Leo said you smell during filming.
Yeah.
But I watched this interview of Miriam Margolyes saying that Leo smelled during Romeo and Juliet like he hasn't washed in days or even weeks.
Yeah, that actually gets brought up in Don's Plum. And in fact, he has his arm around Jenny Lewis.
Oh yeah,
and
in the
she's
movie.
like, "You're kicking right now," because they're sitting around talking about hygiene, and it was Leo who brought it up and that's where Kevin said that he's like showers every day and whatever, twice a day. And Leo's like, I can go days. Yeah, Leo can get funky for sure. But all I can tell you is that he and about 3 other people told me to put on a shirt. So
cover it up.
Yeah, I was apparently pretty ranked that day. And Leo was eventually stinky himself, but that was day 2. So that shirt was already funky from the day before. And we only had the one shirt. If you read the book, of course you did read the book. So those who read the book know he only had the one shirt.
On TikTok, Mr. Hands58 said, "The Don's Plum dude, good movie."
Ah, cool, man. Thanks, man. I hope you're still here. Yeah, I'm the Don's Plum dude. What a weird thing. It's true.
On TikTok, Brenna Perez said, "I interned at Weinstein Co. LOL, it's true." What you were saying?
Yeah.
Jenna said that you and I would be really good parents.
You and I would be good parents. We would be. We'd be fantastic parents.
Because we'll never know.
We exactly. We won't know. Our dogs get all the love though.
Oh sure. Yeah, we treat the dogs real well. Yeah, that's what I have for you. How are you feeling?
There's a bunch more in YouTube.
Oh yeah, Delicate is saying it doesn't matter what the severity of it. She documented it. That's what she's supposed to do.
That's what she's supposed to do.
That's what they asked him to do. Ryan and Blake wanted him to make a statement just like that. He could have done that and be done with it.
Listen, you've kind of brushed over that a little bit too much for me. This is the thing. Like he's. I wonder if he sits around. You got to be sitting around remembering that moment.
He and I should have taken the statement.
I could have just taken that statement.
Yeah, he shouldn't have taken legal advice from his fucking crisis publicist.
Yeah, I don't know if people know that Melissa Nathan
was like, "You got to lawyer up, dude. You can't take this from them. This is like
about specifically this document.
This means war." And it's like, no, dude, that's where you could have started.
It's actually peace. This means peace.
Yeah, well, it also was a really big leveraging opportunity, right? He could have leveraged that into a statement he wanted to craft that maybe put blame on both sides. It was just like they gave him a bargaining chip and he refused it, which is so weird. Yeah, Steve Sarowitz said that he wanted to spend $100 million burying Blake Lively. Well, you should have spent a fraction of that going into mediation and saved your money, you idiot.
So just to put this in perspective for people who don't know, there was a point in time when Blake Lively had no idea that Melissa Nathan was up to all this no good stuff. Or was it Jennifer Abel? I'm sorry. Jennifer Abel was up to this no good stuff with her publicist Sloan at the time. Was it Sloan?
No, it was Stephanie Jones.
Stephanie Jones. So
Leslie Sloan doesn't know anything about anything this whole
I understand.
time.
Abel was leaving. I'm sorry. Who was it again? God damn it.
Jennifer Abel was leaving Jones Works.
So Jennifer Abel was leaving Jones Works, but Blake Lively didn't know that. So when all the trouble had started with her, she actually thought it was because she and Baldoni were doing separate press tours, and that there was like this bad press coming from it, and that it obviously had meant that there were some problems. They referenced Ryan Reynolds unfollowing and the whole cast unfollowing Baldoni, and things went bad. And if you remember back then, there was all these rumors that Blake Lively was responsible for turning the cast against Baldoni, and this was all the publicity that was going on before Blake Lively had learned what they, all the incredibly damning texts that they discovered in Jennifer Abel's telephone after it was confiscated by her employer. So it's an incredibly important perspective, because she wrote this letter, which was for Justin Baldoni to sign, because in the letter she explains, like, she wants people to know that they're not feuding, that this was a strategy. They're going separate ways in PR was a strategy, and she just wanted to put the rumors to rest. She had no idea what was actually real. And that's what's so crazy.
Do you want to hear the statement?
That's what's so crazy about it. Yeah, we'll
I can read it. I have it right here.
Yeah, okay, great. What's so crazy about that is that, I'm sorry. You
Here's what you're talking about.
Yeah, thanks.
August 12th, 2024. Statement prepared by Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds on behalf of Baldoni, Heath, and Wayfarer. The statement reads, "It Ends With Us was a troubled production, which we take full accountability for." They're hoping that Wayfarer makes this statement. "It was a troubled production that we take full accountability for. We are very sorry to everyone we caused upset to, privately and publicly. Blake Lively, Colleen Hoover, the entire cast and crew led with professionalism every step of the way. Any negativity aimed at them is ours to own. We mutually agree that the cast would be promoting the film separately and understood why. We have always said that we're not perfect, and even if unintentionally made mistakes, we will always own them. We hold ourselves accountable. It's not anyone's job but ours, and that's part of being man enough. We will practice what we preach. We're learning and growing from the experience, and we thank everyone for their patience as we find a better way to proceed. We're very proud of the film and the welcome arms that it's been received." This is first draft stuff. "Part of our work is to have uncomfortable conversations for public growth. The film is doing that on screen, and we are doing that off screen. Thank you to the cast and crew and public for the opportunity to be imperfect and to be given the space to learn and grow with humanity and dedication."
So that was the perfect opportunity right there for that was their way out. But what's really important to illustrate there is that Blake Lively was completely in the dark to what was actually going on. Mm-hmm. She did not understand the extent to which Baldoni was going to not only discredit her, but ultimately destroy her in the public eye. And when that got exposed, that's when the shit hit the fan. But that was his opportunity, man. All he had to do was sign that fucking letter, and it would have been a wrap.
They totally tried to write it in Baldoni speak, you know?
Yeah.
You could see that he's such a like a stereotype. They were like, "Oh, this is how he would say it." But you know, that was just they weren't, obviously that was like unedited first draft, right? That wasn't like a finalized statement.
Right.
He really could have used it to edit. And he could have said exactly what he wanted to say. Yeah. And he could have passed it back and forth, and they could have agreed.
Well, it was
and everything could have gone away, and they never would have found out that he started a smear campaign.
Well, your point is great, because it is important to recognize that the opportunity they had was to negotiate that paper. That paper was an offer letter.
Yes.
It was like it was an olive branch.
Yeah,
and all they have to do was get into some stuff. Like, for example, that like there's that harsh language that says that it's ours to own. Now, and this is the important thing, like, this is what SH complaints, this is what HR complaints are all about, is about ownership. It's about acknowledgement and ownership that there was a problem, right? Acknowledgement of a problem. So all they wanted from that letter was the acknowledgement that the burden of how that set was run was on them. It was on Wayfarer. They were the production company of record. Everything that happened was their fault. I've produced movies. They're my responsibility. If something bad happens on that set, that lands on my shoulders.
Yeah, so they weren't wrong about that, but he could have definitely used it and edited it, softened that language so that he was sharing responsibility instead of claiming all of it on his own. And they probably would have been like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. Brenna Perez on TikTok is asking, wait, can you catch us up on the document you're talking about, please? This is from Baldoni's own timeline that he put up on, that his lawyers put up on their website. And they said about this date, August 12th, 2024, Jennifer Abel shares with Melissa Nathan that, in quotes, Blake and Ryan want Justin to put out a statement. And both of the publicists are shocked by the request. And they state that they've never encountered anything similar. Yeah, because you've never had a client that's this fucking problematic.
Yeah.
And Melissa Nathan advises Justin Baldoni to retain legal counsel immediately, which was a huge mistake. I mean, no, okay, like retain legal counsel for whatever reason you want, but she was like, no, you got to lawyer up and and fight them.
No, she was promoting.
Like that's a really bad advice.
She was being the war drum. She wasn't like.
Yeah.
She wasn't saying get a lawyer and make sure you're covered. She was like, let's go to war.
Yeah, Justin Baldoni had Melissa Nathan on one end, which is like, okay, she definitely benefits from convincing him to go to war because she's
100%.
She's going to be the mouthpiece for that, right? She's going to get paid doing that.
It's literally creating work for her.
And then on the other hand, you've got Steve Sarowitz, who's just had like absolutely insane, like bloodthirsty statements about how he wants to go to war. I don't know what his fucking problem is. He only has everything to lose. I'm not sure why he wanted.
I just want to say
this is what's coming in both sides of Baldoni's head. Of course, he's just gonna. They're preying on his paranoia.
I just want to say this, man. Every bit of it reeks like misogyny. It's the whole thing, right down to Andy Signor. It's just all misogyny to me. The whole thing, the hatred toward Blake Lively is misogyny. It's one thing to have like. Again, it's one thing to have like some feelings, but I think she's a shitty actor, or I think she's arrogant, or I'm sick of white blonde chicks. I don't know, whatever it is, but to actually like hate her to me is just to me it indicates misogyny. It's hatred of women. What else can she be representing to you? What else can this woman be representing to you? And again, I when I bring up like people like Andy Signor, it's like. The idea of a woman standing up for herself when she's like being faced with things like SH, or when she's being faced with equality issues or whatever it might be, when they stand up for them, that's when they're attacked most. When they stand up for themselves, when they stand up for the others that are around them, and that's why I believe that what Blake Lively is doing is bigger than Blake Lively, and I believe she knows that. She's fighting for the industry. She's fighting for the women who get pushed around the minute that they want to talk about what's wrong with the fucking industry. And the truth is that when I was going through Hollywood back in the 90s, women were completely like mistreated, especially on the indie level. On the indie level, every filmmaker wanted their actors naked, their women actors naked. They wanted hot naked women in their movies, period. And it was all to sell tickets to get people in the box office, and it was only the women who were subjected to it. Only.
It's just it's always interesting how literal sometimes these astrology interpretations are.
And by the way, I'm partly guilty of it. I wrote a scene where where I wanted Jenny Lewis to be in her underwear, and she was like, "Nope, that's a NO, buddy. What are you gonna do now?" And I was like, "Well, we're gonna write it with you in your clothes then."
Yeah.
Post-coital, let's go.
We're just going to adapt. We're going to adapt,
Yeah.
and we're going to keep the star happy.
Correct.
You were saying that she was going to stick up for women in the industry, and in her second house of her personal values and her skills.
What matters to her most.
She has Venus in Virgo.
Venus in Virgo.
So her personal values and her skills are going to involve some expression of helping women.
Yeah. It's pretty beautiful.
It's just like such a literal description. Yeah, and that's what she's doing right now.
She is.
She's just going to be really driven by that. It's conjoining her son, so she's going to find purpose in that. I just feel like she's the right person for the job. She's going to take it all the way.
I think it's a highly impressive situation for her. I think that I hope that in the end, if it's true, and that there's a large selfless element to this, then I just hope that the recognition comes her way eventually, even if it's after her fucking death. I really don't care. Because if this thing is going to take that kind of spotlight, then I hope that she prevails, provided that the facts are real. And I believe they are. I mean, they're clearly in her favor at this point. And
yeah, the judge thinks so too.
They were from the beginning. And if they weren't, I wouldn't have been having this conversation. Look, there would have been no better a story for me to cover than a big star trying to steal a movie from a filmmaker. That no bigger an alignment for me as a filmmaker who had that exact thing really happen to him. I really had my movie stolen from me. I really had that movie
it just goes to
taken
show
away.
it's like it's such a great like temperature test about your actual story, because that's the one that he chose to mislead people with because it's a good story.
Yeah.
So, your actual story was approved by all these publicists. They gamed it out and they were like, yeah, let's tell this one. Did you have to do something tonight?
Yeah. Are there any more questions?
Oh,
I just want to finish up. I definitely want to get to, it's been a great night. It's been really fun. I know it's been all Justin Baldoni. I literally got to none of my other stories. What kind of
okay. Alyssa has a
entertainment
question.
show are we that we only cover one topic? Go ahead.
Well,
We're here every day, 7 to 9 on the East Coast, till I get to the West Coast.
Yo, listen.
What?
Alyssa has a question
Got it.
on YouTube.
Let's hear it.
If Leo didn't allow Don's Plum to come out, okay?
Yes.
But he allowed it to be sued to maybe showed. That's a typo. If Leo didn't allow Don's Plum to come out but allowed it to be showed, so maybe show directors your talent and not blacklist you guys, would that have been an amicable solution for both parties?
That would not have been a settlement that I would have accepted whatsoever. Leo had his opportunity to, so we had an agreement with Leo that he would see the movie and he would approve or not approve of the movie. And he approved of it. And then we went to his agents at his behest and they approved. After that, there's no take backsies. We're taking meetings. We're assuring people we have the rights and that they're available. Our reputations are now on the line. And people who are in acquisitions for these large companies, they have budgets and they're allocating. They're like, okay, we want to buy Don's Plum. They're starting to put some of their budget in their mind, so people are making adjustments in their own workplace and their own businesses to try and acquire this movie. So he lost his right to reject Don's Plum after he accepted it. No take backsies.
That's why you guys sued him, because he did a take backsies.
100%.
Yeah.
If Leonardo DiCaprio had showed up at the MGM screening on June 25th, 1996, if he just showed up on that screening and watched the movie, and then he came back to us and said, "You guys, I'm sorry," we would have cried that night. We would have wept in each other's arms, me and RD. It would have been the worst night of my life. Instead, it was the best night of my life. Literally the best night of my life. Because on that night, my life changed for the better.
But you're saying that if he had said no to the movie,
It would have been
it. It would have been done.
It would have been no. And not only that, but if he'd have said yes that night at MGM and then said, go to my agents, and then we went to CAA and CAA said, no, we got to put a kibosh on this. He's got this big movie coming out with Titanic. He's got these other opportunities. This movie would get in the way of that. It would have been over. We would not have fought that. It would have been the end of Don's Plum.
But you guys won.
We would have sat for years and years and years and hinted at our various birthday parties, so when are we going to release Don's Plum? And he'd be like, bro, stop with that. And we'd be like, okay. And we clink glasses. We would have been friends, presumably, and we would have never, ever, I would have never, in fact, if anybody, Artie Robb, John Schindler, Jerry Metters, David Stutman, if anybody had tried to go back on our word, I would have taken his side. I would have testified on his behalf, 100%. So there's no remedy there whatsoever. No.
Okay, last question.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go, right? Because you got to do something.
Go ahead.
Guilty Angel is asking, why was Scott's ass in the movie?
It was just a shot I saw when I wrote the scene. When I wrote the scene.
Oh, you wrote it in?
Yeah, it's in the script. When I saw the shot, I'm not really a fan of screenwriters writing for the director. Unless you're the director, and then if you're the director, like, why don't you just break down your script with a DP and do it then? You know what I mean? Director of photography. So what I mean to say is that, in terms of screenwriting, I'm not like a big fan of of writers writing the camera angles or camera moves in their screenplays.
I read a P.T. Anderson screenplay, and it is really distracting to read. I mean, I guess, he's writing a screenplay to shoot, so of course it's useful for him, but as just a piece of work, I understand why you don't think that people should do that.
Well, also because like you have such tight real estate in screenplays,
right?
wasting your time on pages. It's like you don't have a long enough script if you're writing all these camera angles. It's like, yeah. So that was one of the rare occasions where I wrote the shot. I was sitting, when I was writing the scene, I just saw this shot where his ass was there, and here's the funny part of that. I gotta go all the way on this. So we're shooting this scene, and and I wrote it, and Jenny says I'm not going to be in my underwear because she was supposed to be in the bed in her underwear, and he was going to be standing there naked, and so on. So she says she's not going to be in the underwear, so we put her in her clothes then, or she's already in them, of course. But we're like, we'll shoot her in the clothes, and we rewrite it as this weird, sort of post-coital tension.
Yeah, that he's
them.
more comfortable than she is.
So Scott Bloom then walks up to the shot. He's like, we got a towel around him, and then we're ready to shoot it, and he drops the towel, and then he grabs his junk, and like the angle's behind him.
Is he covering it?
Yeah, he's covering it with his hand. If you look at it, he's clearly looking at the woman he just had sex with, and he's hiding his genitals
he's
from
got
her.
his like shoulder raised even. It looks uncomfortable.
He's totally hiding everything, and I'm like, Scott, what are you doing, dude? You know how awkward this looks? Like
She's already seen it.
She's seen it, dude. You guys just finished sex. I mean, you're not going to hide that from her. The whole point is that you're brazenly sexual around her. He wouldn't let go. He would not let go of the junk. We argued about it. I was like, Scott, it looks stupid. And I wasn't going to change the shot. Like, I wasn't going to change the shot because the whole thing that whole opening shot. I love that opening shot.
I know, but is that SH when you're like, dude, remove your hand? And he's like, I don't want to.
It was in the script. At no point in the script did he say he held his junk obscuring the... It was a really odd and awkward thing for him to do. And then he would not... It was just funny because the argument was like, the dude would not let his junk go.
And he won.
It's
in the movie.
It didn't ruin it, though, did it?
No.
I see a whole thing with Delicate. Are we missing out on Delicate?
Well, I was reading, and then you answered. I read, you could have stood on... Oh, okay. So that's what they asked him to do. Ryan and Blake wanted him to make a statement just like that. He could have done that and be done with it. He could have... Justin Baldoni could have stood on business and shown people you can take accountability. Like he's always talking about in his podcast and on his at his TED Talk.
It's just an easy...
People will forgive you and give you a second chance.
Exactly. He had the opportunity. First of all, he didn't even... When she wrote that letter and she offered that letter as, a peace... a peace offering. When she put that letter forward as a peace offering, I mean, that's easy peasy. That's only that comes and goes.
He never would have had to print it verbatim. I don't know why they didn't see that as an opportunity.
It also comes and goes. It literally comes and goes. Justin Baldoni wasn't even a name people recognized at that moment.
On TikTok, Mr. Hands 58 is asking, "Where is Jerry Swindoll? I must know."
I don't know. I mean,
He was saying, did you unalive Jerry Swindoll? He vanished after Don's Plum.
No, he's still friends with Leo.
Theories have started.
I think he's still friends with Leo. I think he quit acting after Don's Plum, but not because of Don's Plum. Comic Urgency was asking if we couldn't cover his junk somehow. Well, I didn't know how. I didn't know. He could put it in a sling. You're going to see a string around his waist,
Yeah, you guys were like a no-budget movie. It's
we had a no-budget. Would put a sock on it. Like, I had no idea.
Napkin.
Yeah, napkin.
Get some toilet paper.
It was so absurd. First of all, the only person who could see it was Jenny Lewis.
Yeah, there's no cameras over there.
Like literally, absolutely nobody could see it. We actually set it up so that the ward, the what do you call them? The robe dropped, and he was like it was just his butt. That's the only thing everybody said. We set it up perfectly so it was reasonably private. The only person who was looking at his penis was Jenny Lewis, and I guess he didn't want her to see it. So no, we couldn't. You guys, I had a great time tonight. A little fiery, but I am so glad you decided to spend some of your evening with us. It is so fucking fun to be with you guys. I say it over and over again. I can't wait until tomorrow. When I'm telling you, when the weekend comes, I miss you guys, even though I welcome the rest, because it is a lot of work. I love this so much. Thank you for giving me all this joy and this fun and this company. And we will see you again. Good night, Angela.
Good night, Dale.
See you tomorrow, guys.